If not, so everything is perfect. So I would like to ask Lukáš if he's connected.
Yeah, I am.
I'm perfect.
Can you please turn off the microphone on the computer because I have some echoes here.
Okay.
Thank you. Shall I start? Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. I would like to present you progress of my bachelor thesis. We've named the role of urban networks in the cities, structures, and development of the cities. My name is Lukáš Příleský, and my supervisor is Dr. Vít Pásto. Objectives. The main goal is to evaluate the role of urban networks in structure and development of the city, and create quantitative and qualitative characteristic of selected urban networks. And this acquired knowledge is applied in the connection with economic activities in the cities and its parts. So currently I'm downloading data, making pre-processing because the data needs to be cleaned before the processing. And also in the meantime, I'm processing the data with the methods based on the research, which is now part of the thesis text. The next step will be evaluation of the results and creating map outputs and statistical outputs. The data. I'm currently using OpenStreetMap, Ordnance Survey, Urban Atlas 2006, 12, and 18, because I wanted to compare different timestamp for each city. And on the right side, you can see a table with the cities which should be analyzed, and it's divided in regular and irregular shape. So I started my analysis in my thesis with shape of the network. I was inspired by structure and dynamics of the cities from Berthelemy 2017. And what I did is just to revert the GreenNet road network to a blocks, which then were analyzed. And I calculated based on the equation on your screen, the shape factor, which give us an information if the blocks are more squares or no irregular shapes, and then we can judge if the city is regular or not. On this slide, you can see I tried to find cores in London for different layers for continuous urban fabric, discontinuous dense urban fabric, and industrial, commercial, public, and military. And you can clearly see that there is some cores for each layer. Shape metrics and FRAC. So I was not only using ArcGIS tools, but also I'm using shape metrics toolbox for analyzing the cities, especially data index for cities, and not only for cities, but also for cities boroughs. And in the bottom left corner, you can see the data index for some cities. So, and next, I would like to create a cohesion index and range index. Also, I would like to use FRAC, which calculates obliquity of line, and I was inspired by Pasto. And you can see example of final map in the bottom right corner. In the future, I would like to use, in the next following months, I would like to use software FracStats and analyze the data sets, because I don't want you to just rely on one software or toolbox. And then these results will be compared to shape metrics and ArcGIS Pro tools. And on the right side, you can see some of the indexes and tools, and also some map which can we get from the FracStats. Yeah, and the last part is comprehensive synthesis. We would like to create a synthesis in the end of the thesis based on the analyzed data and the final result. It's just an idea. It's not set how it look like, but we had an idea with our supervisor that this will be good approach to like somehow sum up the data, and maybe we can get some good results. Thank you for your attention, and feel free to ask me for a question.
Okay, Lukáš, thank you for presentation. And there's a place for discussion if there's some questions from audience, from the staff, or also from the students. If there's some comments or remarks or whatever. Now is the time to ask Lukáš. Okay, Lukáš, I will start with a few questions. First of all, you mentioned that you will be using OpenStreetMap, also some Urban Atlas data. Which time span you choose? So it means in which years you will be doing the calculation?
Yeah, it's for 6, 2018.
Can you repeat please?
It was for 2006, 2012, and 2018 for the
Urban
Atlas.
This is data from the Urban Atlas, but with the OpenStreetMap, so you have the latest one. You will be also able to download the last version, because we don't know from which year the OpenStreetMap is. So it means that it will be quite tricky to compare.
Yeah, I know that the data are uploaded differently, but I will be rely on these data sets like it's from 6, 12, and 18. It's hard to manage to get only one daytime.
Okay. And the second thing is what I want to ask. You mentioned, of course, it's not the final version of your computation, but I saw some hexagons grid you will be using. How big will be the hexagons?
The hexagon will be then calculated for each city differently based on some aspects, but it's not set yet. But we just had an idea.
Okay, and then finally, how we want to compare if you have these different hexagon shapes between the cities? So it means that one city will be hexagon, let's say 20 hectares, and the second one will be 5 hectares. Just for how do you want to compare the cities, or do you want to compare the cities?
Yeah, I would like to compare the cities, but I know it's a tricky one because it cannot be the same, because then it's not equal, because sometimes the city has like 8 million inhabitants, and for example you can have also city for 1 million, and then it's not that equal. So we need to discuss it with my supervisor, the next steps. Okay,
so just take account this. Of course, it's not easy to calculate it, but just take account with that. Yeah. There will be maybe some equation how you calculate this, and there will be some dependency on the size, but you need to put this in the text of your thesis to be clear. Okay, some more questions? It looks like everything is told. Thank you, Lukáš, for presentations, and I would like to swap to Honza Roller, please.
Yeah, he will be presenting from my computer, so he will only switch the presentation. If it's possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay. Wait a while. Stop presenting. Stop presenting. I'll probably share my. I'll probably share my screen because I have it on a PDF, and it's like the PowerPoint presentation somehow messed the fonts. So if it's okay for you.
Can you make it full screen, please?
Was.
You can view second one.
Full screen mode.
Perfect. Yeah. You can start.
Okay. I can start. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Jan Roller, and my master thesis is to create a portal for spatial anatomy simulation game. It's under supervision of Dr. Bastow. The first part, I want to tell our foreign students something about the game. The theoretical part
I got to know spatial simulation game in detail. I also identified game elements that can be implemented into a web platform, and I'm currently working on a practical part where I'm creating a web platform for the spatial simulation game. It will contain already created game rounds, tutorials, and stuff, and also links for the software needed. I'm also designing a semi-automatic system for the evaluating game results, also optimizing the game rounds to fit into the web form of the thing. And I also am designing at least 3 new scenarios. Basically, it's just you already seen this slide. The foreign students haven't. So what's the simulation game is basically a mixture of geoinformatics with socio-economic topics based on real data. It's really important, and it deals with the simulations of real situations. In the bottom is the most important part. That's the current state. Like today, the students in teams in the game are assigned round in PDF and data and shapefile. They have to do some calculations and post the results to some form of a Google Drive or some cloud drive. I'm currently changing it in order to have it in a web platform, everything. These are the methods. This is the diagram of my work. I'm currently in Maribor, so I have just finished my research yesterday, and I have also been working on these 3 main pillars in the middle, designing the web portal, designing the rating system, and also designing the game rounds. This is my work schedule. So I'm currently, I have a wireframe. I also am designing the rating system, and I'm also coding. This is the second part of my presentation, the progress of my work. I already set up a web page, and I'm working on it. I have some sort of wireframe or some rough version of the website. On the left hand, you can see the main page of the web portal. This is basically a redesign of the old page. But what's more important, that on the upper menu, you can also see the user login screen, on the user login button on the right side next to the game button, and also the tutorials button. So these are the buttons added to the former website. If you click the game, this is just some rough version, some wireframe for it for the rounds. You see in the upper submenu that the another rounds are locked because you haven't finished the first round. On the left hand, you have the rules for the game. On the upper hand, on the upper side of the screenshot, you have the map with the data needed. I just put a pond there, but there will be the data. You can also download them. There will be a button somewhere around the map, and all the calculations needed for the evaluation. The next pillar is to create evaluation criteria. So I gathered all the resources from previous spationomy years and gathered all the formulas, put it into one Excel, and I'm actually working on putting this to MySQL databases, PHP, and hard-coded everything into the backend. I don't have this yet, but I have these Excels where all the formulas are. Also, the third main pillar of my thesis is create new game rounds. I've come up with this blackout scenario around August, and finally finished this with my team here in Maribor. We created some game plan. This will be some printed way, analog maps, and like on the left hand you can see a story for it, that electricity went off, and this kind of stuff. And I also have done together with my team here in Maribor, the calculations for assessment, like rules and stuff. So that's basically it. And I think, it's the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you also very much for the presentation. And now is the time for questions from outside. Okay, Enzo, I will ask you a few things. First of all, I would like to know, maybe I asked it on the first day, but still I do not completely understand what will be your main aim in the thesis. So you want to make the game itself, or there will be some like a portal for assessing or assessment the results of the game made by the students?
Yeah, I understand. The game is already created, but you know, we the players are given just PDF files, and I'm creating basically a portal for assessment for after every round, the teachers or the game masters or the staff, whatever you call it, will have to gather all the submitted things from the teams that play the game, assess it, double check in Excel and GIS. My aim is to create a web portal where everything will be hard coded in these variables, PHP, MySQL, and these input boxes would gather the data and assess it somehow semi-automatically in order for the staff not to have so much work, you know.
Okay, I understand. So it means that already the rounds are made, but you mentioned something with some new ones. So you will be developing them, or the people from the project will developing them, and you just implement them in the portal.
There are several rounds already created. I think there's around 8 of them. Now in Maribor we played 5, so it will depend on the teacher which rounds will be there. And I also at that current game, the current year of Spatial project, it can be changed. In the administrator position. That's my aim. Like if you log in as an administrator, you could change what round you put in there. And I also have to design new game rounds. Like I have one at this time. Me and my team here in Maribor, they helped me to do the economic calculations, because we are here students from not only geoinformatics but also from economy and game schools. So they helped me to do this. This is basically the fresh stuff, these 2 slides.
Okay, and my last question concerning the how the game will be implemented. So I guess that the project is for several years. So maybe next year, then the year after that, will be use the game, and then the game will be stopped, or you will make it public, or what? I'm just asking what will be your results. So it means that this is only for the project. So there will be no usage after that.
I think like the project may continue, and there will maybe even Spationomy 3.0. I think it's a really successful project, and the results will also be how to develop maybe a web platform, web application of this socio-economic data and stuff. Without we didn't have so much knowledge about programming and stuff, so maybe in the department of geoinformatics or geoinformatic field it will be good to have this work. Like from my point of view, yeah, you get my point. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I got your point. Yeah, and now it's clear. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Yes, we have another question.
Hello, Standard Volka. I would like to ask, if I understand well, you created the assessment part, so some kind of Excel with formulas, and you put there the results of the teams, and it shows you who won, basically. But where is the role of GIS? Because on one of the slides there were some icons of GIS, and you said that this assessment will be based on Excel and GIS. So how is the role of GIS here?
The role of GIS is that basically during the game process, the players will have to use the GIS and through the calculate through the GIS the economic indicators and put them into the Excel files. because we are provided with layers with shapefile layers with some economic indicators, and we have to put everything together and calculate the economic indicators and the results, and also do the spatial analysis for like proximity to if the factory is close to a road network, and basically it's everything mixed together, economy, geoinformatics.
Okay, and this system that you are developing will be like downloading this information automatically from GIS, or someone has to put the values into the form or into the
So you can see at this slide, the players will put, or the teams will put these calculated values in order for assessment, and there's also an upload button that you will upload your created shapefile to the platform, and the administrators could see it, could explore it through this some sort of web map.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're out of time with your presentation, so thank you again for presentations. And I would like to ask Teresa, she will be also presenting for the same computer, or?
No, she's in another room.
Okay, she's in another room. So okay, so bye bye to this room, and we would like to collect the second one.
Goodbye.
Yeah, hello. Can you see it properly?
Yes, everything is fine. We also hear you, so we can start, Teresa.
Okay, great. Good morning. I would like to introduce my ongoing work results, and my topic of my thesis is impacting pandemic on international mobility in Europe. My supervisor is Dr. Vít Pasto. The aim of my thesis is to evaluate the spatial and economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the change of mobility in Europe regarding tourism and cross-border mobility. The aim is to describe the state of mobility intensity in Europe, to compare the changes in the situation before and during the pandemic, and to assess tourism in the context of pandemic. My thesis consists of two huge parts, mobility and tourism. I'm working on these two parallel. Today, I would like to show you some of my results of change of air transportation in Europe, one of my case studies for mobility in France, a little bit of tourism in Europe, and overall look at tourism in Czech Republic. So let's get started with air mobility. I evaluated the situation before the COVID-19 pandemic, and in 10 years, there was an increase in the number of transported passengers by 47%, and the average year-on-year increase was 4.6%. In 2020, the pandemic has caused in passenger numbers and aircraft movements. The worst situation was in second quarter of 2020 in Malta. For an evaluation of mobility, I used data provided by Eurostat, as you can see in the map, and data from radar box, as you can see in the figures. And in the figures, you can see the difference between intra and extra-European flights. For one of my case studies, I've selected air transportation in France as the most visited country in Europe. I focused on Charles de Gaulle Airport and the busiest intra-Europe flight routes. The busiest is route to Barcelona, and the decrease there was about 75%. On the other hand, we have national flights here, and the busiest route to Nice, where the overall decrease of French flights was 34.2%. And in the summer, there was an increase of transported passengers here. Now let's move to tourism. And for evaluation of tourism in Europe, I used mostly data provided by Eurostat, World Tourism Organization, Statista, and national statistics of each country. As well as in the mobility part, I focused on Europe overall. Here you can see a decrease of nights spent at tourist accommodation in second quarter of 2020 compared to second quarter of 2018. The worst situation was in the UK, where the accommodation was totally closed. If we take a look at Czechia, we can see that the number of tourists in Czech Republic decreased by 45%, and the share of tourists raised by 24%. So the decrease of non-residents is enormous. but there was an increase of nights spent by Czechs in the summer months, and overall decrease of residents is less than 20%. In the last part of my thesis, I will evaluate the spatial and economic effects of change of mobility and tourism in Europe. For spatial evaluation, I would like to use concept of synthetical evaluation and typology. I will try to evaluate clusters and similarities of countries. For the demonstration of my plan, I made an index based on 5 variables and existing indexes. The description that describes the situation in Europe based on mobility, tourism competitiveness, share of GDP, and COVID stringency. And if we just quickly take a look at Czechia, there is an index value 44. It is better of countries in Europe, and it is caused by the fact that the Czech Republic is not that dependent on non-resident tourists, and there were almost no COVID restrictions during the summer 2020. So that's all, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Teresa, for presentations. Are there some questions? There's one from Standa.
Yeah, I would like to ask, we did not hear everything because of some connection problem, but I think I got the point. But I would like to ask, what will be the final results? You showed us a lot of maps and graphs and these kind of things, but how the final result will look like? Will it be
Okay.
website or?
Yeah, so one of my main results will be the collection of the data, because it's kind of hard to make it complex and at one place, and also the description and interpretation.
Terko, we lost you. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We didn't heard any word from the question to Standa. Please, can you repeat it again?
Okay, I will try. So one of the most important thing, there will be the collection of the data and the description and interpretation, and then there will be maps and these indexes. I would like to try to make the index for each of the categories and compare it in years. It will be like one index for 2019, one index for 20, just so you can compare it.
Okay, so the results will be a lot of indexes and data, but how the results will be presented? Will be some kind of website with all this information, or set of maps, or atlas, or these data will be only in your master thesis?
Yeah, okay, I'm not decided yet, but I was thinking about the story map and a website for the collection of that. So it's able to see for everyone in Europe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Some more questions to Teresa?
Hello, I would like to ask about one of the maps. If you could show the map with the night spent at tourist accommodation.
I don't hear which map you want to see.
Just a little bit, I will stop you. Not this one. Yes, this one. I'd like to ask about the white countries, because I can understand the gray ones.
You can go again. Go forward and then stay with the map with the night spent.
Okay, this one.
One more. Okay, this one. Yeah. Stay because we see it a little bit later than you see it.
Yeah.
So stay here, please.
Yeah. My question is about the countries, the white ones. What do they mean? I mean, Bulgaria, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. Why are they white?
I'm sorry, but due to the bad internet connection, I couldn't hear your question.
Maybe can you go closer?
Why they are white countries? What does it mean, the white color in the map?
Yeah, well, it's not white, it's just bright orange.
Oh, yeah.
Is it right orange? Okay. Okay, so next time we use the different light orange, please, because it completely looks like white color. So, but of course it may be of the presentation techniques, but that is not visible definitely. So now we see. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can stop here. Thank you, Teresa, for presentation, and I would like to ask Adam Bujnik with presentation if he's connected.
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Adam, you can share the screen. I will tell you if I see something. I can hear you. Okay.
I'm sharing the screen now.
Make it full screen, please. Okay.
Yeah.
You can start.
Very well. So, hello once again from Maribor. I'd like to introduce you to my thesis topic. It's called Predictive Modeling of the Occurrence of Archaeological Sites on the Border of Moravia and Silesia. My thesis supervisor is Karel Macku, and the topic expert is Peter Kováčik. I'd like to shortly say a summary about the aim of the thesis. It's to evaluate the potential tools and make some predictions about the occurrences of archaeological sites based on existing data of archaeological sites. I am learning about existing tools for spatial predictive modeling. I'm using various computational methods, such as maxent, logistic regression, and fuzzy methods. I am implementing these tools, and I am on the archaeological data. I will later evaluate these tools. I will evaluate the pros and cons of these tools, compare them, and the result will of the thesis will be series of predicted maps. This is just some of the research I've been doing, just some few of the papers I've been reading, and let's get to the methods used. As I was saying, I will be using the maxent, logistic regression, and fuzzy modeling. So far, I've been focusing on the maxent method, exactly the maxent software actually. And next up, I'll be trying to focus on logistic regression, and after that, I'd like to do some fuzzy modeling. I would like to introduce you the predictors that will be the input values, basically. It's obviously elevation, derived from the digital elevation model, slope and aspect, also derived from this. Distance from major rivers. Here I'm using Strahler's classification. After that, it's the literature also recommends to use land use and subsoil data. I've not worked with these yet, and you might also think that these have changed historically, which is of course true. But then again, the literature finds some correlation between that anyway. So I will try to try it and compare the results. These are some results that I have had from the maxent software. It generates you an HTML report with several graphs like arrows, seekers, etc., and also some basic maps. It's a raster map. Here the white dots represent the input data of archaeological sites. This is the Starší Neolith historical period. And I'd like to show you also that I've done the predictions for several historical periods. This is just 9 of them. I've got a few more. And here is really work in progress map. You can see this disclaimer if there are any cartographs present. But this is what it would somewhat look like. Here, the redder the area is, there's a higher chance of there being some archaeological site there. I'd like to leave off with my Gantt chart of how I'd like to keep working on this. past work was mostly focused on research, and last few months actually have been focused on the Maxent method. I would like to have my thoughts basically closed with the Maxent method at the end of the November. Then I'd like to start working on logistic regression and transition into fuzzy modeling. Also, I would like to start writing the notes I have into the thesis itself. And let's say after I'm done with the fuzzy modeling modeling, I'd like to go back to all of these three methods, start comparing them more and fine-tuning the parameters. I'd like to be done with all of these three methods by the end of February, and then really just work on finishing up the ideas and the writing itself. Well, that was my my thesis topic, and I'd like to open up the discussion. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Aram, for presentation. And now is the place or time for questions.
If I may ask a similar question to the one for Teresa, what will be the final result? The model or the maps for all the historical times like Neolith, Eneolith, etc., etc. So the output, the model or the maps?
Yes, thank you for the question. The output will be well, a comparison of these models and pros and cons of each model, and recommendations of what is suitable for this kind of predictions, but also series of maps, as you've seen this one, maybe series of maps with those predictions themselves.
Okay, and if someone would like to use your model on another data set for another place, will it be available somehow with some kind of manual what to put inside to get these kind of maps?
Are you asking if the data will be available for someone else?
No, not data, the model or the manual for the model, or how to use your model with my own.
Of course. I'd like to include, for example, I'll be creating the logistic regression model in the programming language R, and I'd like to include it to my thesis, so everyone can use it to predict some archaeological sites, or maybe even use it for something else.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Adam, I have a question to you concerning the Maxent itself. You show us that you will be using a digital elevation model, also derivative like aspect and slope and other like phenomena. But did you make some correlation statistics, how they are dependent to each other? Because there are some derivatives from elevation data, so it means they are highly correlated. It's the first thing. And okay, you can give me the answer to this, and I will ask you several questions after that.
Could you repeat the last part, please? I didn't get that.
Okay, so I'm asking if you made some correlation statistic within this your data you are analysis. So it means you have a digital elevation data. So it means that this will be like elevation. There will be some slope, and there will be some like aspect. But they can be a connection between them. If you make a correlation, it's the first question.
Oh, I think there is a correlation. So far, what I've done was just to resample the digital elevation model, because the resolution is too high, I think.
Because the problem with the Maxent is always like that if you have a lot of these variables, you need to do it before you do testing, because sometimes it's just working together and the correlation just tweak the result. It's one thing. Of course, I don't know which layer we'll be using for lab use, because if you have the elevation data which are in the let's say 2 meters grid, so I don't know which land use data you will be using for that.
Yeah, I am aware of that. I'm aware that finding the land use data in Czech Republic is quite a challenge, and if there's no available data, I'll have to just not to do this. And
Sorry, I would like to maybe two hints there. You just know 2020 it's SR land cover grid, and also there's S3 land cover, which is made from the Sentinel data. It's in 10 meters resolution, so they are the most available data right now. So maybe use them, or maybe try it, please. And also I have a question concerning the map which we see on your slide. Why the other parts are blue? Because I think that there's a problem with the sampling of the data. Because with the maxent, I think that you have some like a sampling across the main rivers, which are in the main area, but you don't have the data in the ends of the area. So it means, but it's not it's a proper sampling, because if you have this like the area of interest just there, and you do the sampling just in the middle, so then there is also problem with the autocorrelation, because I saw a lot of viewpoints in a very close connection. So it means this also highlight the results. So you need to be aware of that. So it's not possible to make it like you did it, because you will get these maps which are not really showing the truth.
Okay, well, thank you for the advice. I will have to look into that.
Yeah, because I think the main, because you have the distance from the river, I guess that this value is doing that you have everything just far from the rivers in the blue color. Maybe I'm wrong, but it will be definitely one of the point, because you don't have the data from the Slovakia, you don't have the data from different area of interest in Slim. So I mean, you are just staying in the one like polygon. So it means that they can be data which are just for in Moravsky Baron, in Stenberg, but you don't have them. So they will be correcting but you have only one polygon. So it means that this can be a little bit tricky to showing like this.
Yes, I'm aware of that, but this is the area of interest. And if I extend the area with the rivers like beyond this, the maxent, there's going to be a problem with that. The maxent needs the input of exactly the same raster files.
Yeah. So maybe when you make one visualization, you can put there some information which will be like far from that you have the points just in the middle, because this will be like very useful for the understand what you did, because this data I think you're presenting now, it's not true, because it's showing just one layer across the main rivers, but they can be also some other sites, but you are not having them in the analysis. So, but it's the question of maybe discussion of your work, whatever, but let's take this in account. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for the advice.
More questions? Okay. Thank you very much. We will swap or move to the different speakers. So, Petra, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, so
Ještě možná Petr byste měl sdílet tu prosbu, nevím, jestli sdílá Pajka, protože jestli to povedal mi vždycky vidět, tak on to nevidí, pokud to nebude sdílet. Sdílet obrazovku musí další. Ano, a zdejte tu obrazovku. Jo, a teď to zůstane. Ne, to zůstane. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so good morning to everyone, also from Olomouc. My name is Petra Buriančíková, and today I would like to present the progress of my thesis, thermal mapping of selected areas of the city of Olomouc. My supervisor is Dr. Ležovský. The objectives of my thesis are to analyze the temperature characteristics of selected areas of Olomouc using thermal mapping, to do regular measurements of selected areas chosen in cooperation with Olomouc City Council, to create sets of temperature conditions for various surfaces and areas, and to eliminate unwanted effects on thermal measurements. This is the workflow. The initial phase and data measurements are already done, and now I'm in the phase of data processing. The automation is the key feature here because of the number of images, and I have written script so far for the conversion of the temperature values to the radio interface. Handheld camera measurements were performed on 3 locations: the Upper City Square, Villa District, and Housing Estate at Mechperla. Camera flare E60 was used, and the time frame for the sensing was throughout the second half of July through August, with hourly frequency. The weather conditions were always checked in advance for the Olomouc weather station. Partly sunny weather, no precipitation, and temperatures approximately between 15 and 30 degrees were desired. Here are samples of the graphs for the weather station. Here I would like to show some samples of the mosaics for the upper city square in eastern direction. This one is from 9 a.m. I picked two locations of interest, T1 and T2, which is shielded from the sunlight by a building. The difference here between the temperatures there is around 3 degrees Celsius. But in the 11 a.m. mosaic, you can see that the difference increased by a lot. It's almost by 16 degrees now. On the 1 p.m. mosaic, the increases started to slow down. And on the 3 p.m. mosaic, you can see that on the T2 location there is no longer shade, so the increase in the temperature is significant for the T2 location, but it is still way lower and slower than for the T1 location, which was not shielded. UAV measurements were also performed with the drone DJI Mavic 2, but these were just to test the workflow because we did the sensing in autumn. We discovered that the workflow is not ideal at all because there is no way of exporting raw temperature values out of the DJI drone. You could only visualize the temperature values in the DJI Thermal Tools software, and like the functionality is very limited, and there is also no way for analysis or visualization adjustments. Here are the samples of the mosaics processed out of some of the UAV measurements. I picked 4 locations for a closer look. The first one is pavement shielded by building and a tree. Just please note that the color ramps are of different maximum and minimum values, and this is also due to the insufficient software because there is no way of how to adjust it. The second location is parking slot. Then the third location is grass, and the fourth location grass shielded by a tree. The maximum difference between the morning and afternoon temperatures was in case of the parking slot, and the minimum was in case of the first location, the pavement shielded by both the building and the tree. Challenges I will be now resolving are the locked image formats and insufficient softwares for the thermal processing. This is not only the case for the DJI but also for the FLIR camera, because although you can export the raw temperature values out of it, you need to do it in their software, the FLIR tools, which is not great. Then I need to focus on the emissivity corrections because the problem is that you can set only one emissivity value in the camera. But of course, there are like different surfaces when you are taking the images, and different surfaces have different emissivity values. For example, this is mainly the case for the metal surfaces because their emissivity is very low, and therefore the temperatures appear to be low as well, but they are. Then I need to automate as much of the processes as I can. And of course, the challenge is also the visualization because it is hard to at the same time have the tolerance of the same maximum and minimum values for the comparisons, and also keep the objects on the images distinguishable. And this is all for me, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you for nice timing. It's exactly 5 minutes. So that's great. Thanks. It's easy to. Yeah, 3 seconds. Perfect. So then place for questions.
I'd like to ask about the thermal mosaic. If you could show it, not the one from the UAV, but the one before. Yeah. How was this made? Was it made from the handheld camera?
Yes. Yes, it was.
So you stood somewhere in the balcony?
Yeah, I was on the town hall tower and I was taking the pictures like this, so I could then process it in Arisoft to mosaic.
I never heard how accurate this could be, because in the manual of the camera it says that to measure it correctly, you should stand orthogonally to the surface, and about like a meter from the measured surface. So if you stand like several meters away and not orthogonal in a way?
I'm not sure about the accuracy, but the flare guys say that the accuracy should be like plus minus 2% of the overall temperature. But of course, like it wasn't possible to be orthogonally from the town hall tower.
I was having the same issue with my own thesis last year, so I was just wondering how do you know?
Yeah, I think there are some incorrections for sure. But yeah, the problem was that we wanted at first to use the other camera that works well, but it kind of broke. So like the manufacturers weren't able to repair it, so we needed to use the Flare E60, which isn't that great, but I think will suffice somehow.
I have a question also concerning this. Did you make some correction on like the ground measurement? It was somewhere there?
No.
So you don't know the temperature on that side. So because there can be the shift and there can be the emissivity is also the problem. So of course it can be like 44 degrees on the roof. It's possible, but we don't know it exactly. So it's always the problem with the cameras.
Yes. Yeah, there are no ground measurements.
Yeah. So concerning the drone mapping, do you think that DJI will make it available? Because for the upper version, it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. Actually, there is a software for different camera, which is great, but not for us.
Yeah.
So, like I browsed many forums on that, and many users are complaining to DJI, but like they said that they will make something, but I'm not very confident that it will be this year or like during the work on my thesis.
Is there any possibility to rent the high drone with the camera, which is maybe as your supervisor maybe?
Yeah, that is I think question for him.
Yes, good question. I think because they have the drone, which is possible to make it, or at least they maybe can send you some images and you can play with that, because I think it doesn't matter when the images was taken. This will be about how to process the data, so maybe we will get the data.
Yeah, for the testing. I think
it's going to be okay if you have it from internal or private. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, just to test the workflow. Yeah, so I think we will discuss it with my supervisor. We will see if they go for once.
Thank you. Okay, that's great.
If I may I ask one more question, please?
Yeah, sure.
Petra, I just wanted to ask you, I understand your principles that you will do some calibration and the final output will be like temperature map, which will show that, let's say, one side of the street is not so hot as second one, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking how it should be or could be used for politicians, for local government, because let's say normal person in a city council, he just don't want to show on this kind of map that left side is different than the right one. He wants to know something pretty clear, which can be somehow used. What he should do according to your results. So, did you think about application of your results?
Yeah, so actually I was consulting with the city council, so I will provide them the results and the interpretations. I was thinking to make something like a slider maps, for example, to compare the temperatures during the day, and then according to the interpretations and to the maps, they can make some decisions, for example, to plant trees somewhere to shade the places that are heating up like very quickly. So yeah, this will be like discussed with the city council.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. And there is also one question from Yekanat.
Good morning. My question is from two small questions. First of all, I want to say that according to the last years, in our department was one PhD thesis which connected to the heat of the islands, heat islands in Olomouc, and my question is why you decided to take in calculation exactly this point, the upper square, because according to this work, I read this work and I remember that this place, like city center, was of the main heat on there, and maybe it will be easier to take another street or another place, like when you calculating the places, which place to take for the calculating, what was your goals?
Okay,
Maybe
so
point.
The locations were picked in cooperation with the city council. Basically, they were interested in these kind of areas. They wanted us to measure like different kinds of building structures, to say. So, you know, like the upper square is the core of Olomouc, so we need to measure that. They were interested in that. And then also we measured the Villa district and also the housing estate at Mashkorova, because they were also like interested in different building structures. So we measured that. And the city square is of course like a heat island, and I think it's important to, you know, always let the city council know that, so they could take some actions there, because, you know, it was said many times that there are no trees, there is like the surface heating up very quickly throughout the day, and it's not good for the people. But still, there weren't any actions taken, so I think it's good to always, you know, point that out.
Thank you so much for your answer. Maybe I just missed the point while your presentation. Thank you so much again.
Okay. Thank you for question. Thank you for answers. Thank you, Peter. Now I would like to ask Peter.
Good morning. I have prepared a presentation about regional inequalities in the areas of the European population. The aim of the work is carry out a kind of analysis of real inequalities at the individual and quality of health care in regional level in Europe. My background health inequalities assessment produces compilation of research, selection of the most important indicators for assessment the health population. I have data from freely available source, erosion and version between indicators. I have variance indices and mutual comparison of spatial attributes with spatial health. I used indicators from Eurostat and European and National Mobility data forms 2. This is through the mortality rate. You can see that in Eastern Europe, for example, Bulgaria, and that's in Central Europe, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Austria. And the other countries is you can see hospital beds, a lot of hospital beds in region Central Europe, in Czech Republic and Slovakia, in the small amount of hospital in, for example, Spain, Italy, and Ireland. I used methods. I used exploratory analysis, spatial attributes, outliers, principal components analysis, and correlation. My next regression analysis searching for connection between determinants of health indicators. This is principal components analysis, significant relations in between total mortality, for example, cancer and deaths of circulatory system, significant relationships between gross domestic product and total mortality. This is global correlation. The negative correlation is between life expectancy and death in the circulatory death system. And we can observe a significant correlation in total death and death in the circulatory system. This is a correlation in the format. You can see correlation between life expectancy and gross domestic product. Higher correlation in the dependence between indicators is growing intensively. When life expectancy increases, so does GDP. And biggest correlation in region Czech Republic, Slovakia, and the small correlation in Spain. This is outliers. I have outliers are minority, a few values, and 20 numbers. This is outliers in the map. Overall, there are a few removed regions in Europe. Darker color mean a more remote region. We can observe agricultural maintenance in Eastern Europe and other countries in Ireland, United Kingdom, Sweden. Characteristic of the outmost region. Highest mortality, lowest life expectancy, and lowest GDP. This is a population chart. The great percentage of that is in this number of doctors, alcohol and concentration. Constant data are for gross domestic product. Outliers are seen in the for example, in circulatory disasters. This is other possible outputs. I will be visualization of views in the stool, identification of regions, and results of filter analysis. And I would index and the degree improvement of potential. This is the end, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Peter, for presentation. And if there are any questions, Peter, please feel free to ask.
I have one. My question is, how the number of hospital beds is related to the health of the population?
Yes. If number of population from Eurostat, the data base
and my question is if you are like evaluating health of the population or the quality of the healthcare, because those are different things from my point of view.
Yes, maybe I used few indicators like gross domestic product and other indicators.
You use those or not, or you plan to use those indicators?
I have indicators from respiratory and from aerobic products.
I know, but for me, some of them are not connected much with health of the population, like the product or the number of beds. For me, they are like telling me something about quality of the healthcare, but not about the health of the population. If there are lots of empty beds in hospitals, that doesn't mean that the population is healthy or not. From all. Just that you focus on that and talk about this with your supervisor?
I speaking in supervisors. I don't know.
Yeah, try to discuss with them, like what exactly you are evaluating and which indicators are appropriate for this. Okay.
Also, I think that I don't know if this is exactly from the aims of your thesis, but you have it in the aims that you have to evaluate the health and then quality of healthcare. There are two things. Yes. And the presentation you mix everything together. So that wasn't clear what you, because there are a lot of the indicators and you showed what was the difference between them about how they depend on. But actually, as already mentioned, there are several of them they are not connected with the health. Some of them they are connected with the healthcare. So you need to be sure what you will be presenting. And maybe I would like to ask for the one map which is showing this gradient going from how you can explain that. That the Spain is completely white colors and then it's going from the east north direction is going up. What do you think? Can be some problem with the data, or do you think it's really like that because it's very regular the pattern? Can you show the map, please? Because I think this one. Yes. How you can?
This correlation between.
I know, but how you can explain the shape, or how you shape it is going from that direction and it's really regular. So it means that. Are you sure that, or you make? For me, it looks like that you have the different code for the results, but maybe not. But maybe this is real like this. It's really regular. Maybe not. So, but just asking if this is really the output.
This when health expenses increase I think.
Yeah, I just asking for the explain, but maybe it's something behind this data. I don't know, but it looks weird from the map. But maybe is it true?
So this is next.
Yeah, maybe the final thing will be have some discussion or comments or to comment the results. Because okay, maybe this is the results, but I don't understand if this is correct or not. Okay, perfect. Some more questions?
Yes, I have a question about the year of the data. You mentioned that your source year is 218
Yes.
And do you plan also process yearly all this data from the previous year, 2017 or 2019, and compare the changes between years? Because I suppose that old data exists and maybe also newer data. Yeah.
Yes. I have data from 2016 to 2018. I data.
And do you plan process all?
Yes.
Yes, and compare the evolution of the yeah, it will be fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, brother. And I would like to ask more.
So, I would like to welcome us to my presentation about my master thesis for the quality of life in the rural and urban space. My supervisor is Dr. Max. So, firstly, to the thesis goal. The main goal of my thesis is to evaluate the relationship between topics of quality of life and the membership of the rural and urban space. The fulfillment of this main goal is divided into four stages of processing, from the getting acquainted with the topics to the formulation of some statements about the behavior of certain phenomena. Currently, I am in the third step, performing a series of analysis in order to relationships with topics. So now very briefly about data. First data set is a quality of life index of Mogash function with 10 percentations, equality of its weights, and the total score is on scale 0 to 10, where 0 is worst and 10 is best. Second alternative is quality of life index of Mogash, of Oxford and Sibuka, Yugoslavs, on scale 0 to 100 with 15 indicators variety of its weights by median agency. You can skip. The first data set is report variant, my own of the work index based on the Mogash function, same scale, same weights. And the last data set is municipality membership based on fuzzy approach, which key is to quantify the degree to which a municipality belongs to rural and urban space on scale 0 to 1, or refers rural and 1 is urban space. Now something about context of topics on a global level. So relationship between quality of life and membership to the urban space is not obvious at the first glance, as you see on the right side of the picture, because low level of correlation. So we need to perform additional analysis. I will speak about the next slide. The second relationship is positive. It can be between quality of life indices variations. There is a positive correlation in a range of 0 to 6 to 0 to 7, depends on specific index. Next slide is about some analysis on the level of quality of life index. So first was performed exploratory analysis, so normality testing, variability testing, and the detecting of non-spatial outliers, as you see on the right side, non-fixed terms and some box plot chart. In the next phase was performed autocorrelation. So the key question was to identify some clusters and some spatial outliers. And the final part of the analysis of quality of life index was perform the local correlation as geographical analysis category of analysis. Now something about clusters of quality of life. As you see on the example of the quality of life index on the right side, local statistic and the clusters methods. So municipality with high value of quality of index, red color on the bottom image, create size clusters. For example, areas of Werner-Herzog and Lava and its surroundings. Municipalities with low value of index are on the most area used in Alabama and regions, but exist some areas very small with significantly higher values than surroundings. For example, Carolina used in Alabama. And now the key slide about local correlation. So exist statistically significant correlations at local level. There's opposite to the scatter plot on previous slides. In range 0.3 to 1 correlation coefficient. Differences between experiment and comparison are minimal, so there is demonstrated on experiment. Positive correlation areas are in hierarchy, very large areas in Central Bohemia and South Moravia. If you perform an analysis with small counts of neighbors, about 25, for example, you can see a negative correlation areas where spread the Czech Republic around. You can mention Axis, Austria, and Mizochis. Now something outlook or steps in the future. So the task will be to observe the context between culture indicator and membership in the local level, and each characteristic these clusters and to create a set of maps describing local variants or relationships. And second step can be typization, so definition of the types based on the relationship of the topics. For example, areas with high volume index and high value of membership, and opposite side, low volume index and low value of membership. And thank you for attention.
Okay, thank you for presentation, and there's a place for discussion. Some questions from audience today?
Maybe I have one question, and maybe I missed it during the presentation, but how did you define the urban and the rural areas? Is there like any boundary distinguishment?
Yes, I have a section about that. I go through very briefly because it's mentioned in previous days, so it's no problem to repeat it. So there is a yes, it's a very fast way.
Yeah.
Maybe one question, do you now have some expectation of the result? Do you think that this is connected somehow, or you think this is going to be very hard to...
It's very difficult to predict the final results. I think that will exist some clusters in fragments, I think, and very difficult to define and the characteristics one by one. I think very because exists local variations index to describe and take a comparison between the structure index. That's very independent.
And maybe last question: how do you think that the difference with the 10 of the data, because one is 2016, then you have the data from the Murgash, which is from 2011. How this can influence the results?
There's no problem because Murgash is 2011, that's true, but I have older version of municipalities, so I use the data set as possible. So for example, the qualified index of Murgash 2011 was matched to the municipality from I think 2010 year and complementary in the next steps. For example, qualified index Eurosas 2016 is complementary to municipality membership 2016 as you see.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. So now we have on stage.
Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Daniel and I would like to introduce my thesis. My thesis supervisor is Docent Jaroslav Burian. I would like to introduce some goals of my thesis. My work is to verify the possibilities of using ArcGIS city engine technology in the field of security planning in connection with the operating of the city embassy in Mali. I have to collect necessary data of the building and of the nearest area and create a 3D model of the embassy. After that, I will create several case studies for security planning, for example, visibility analysis, and create some scenarios. At the end of the work, I will do manual. Okay, here is my timeline. I would like to show how I will work on my thesis. So first step was introduced to city engine. Second, data collection. After that, embassy model, modeling of the city in Bamako, security planning scenarios, and manual. Now I would like to show any of these steps. Okay, what ArcGIS city engine exactly is. I saved at first master thesis, so now into it. City engine is for creating and generating 3D cities by OpenStreetMap with automatic generation. We can use this city engine, for example, in GIS, in game development, modeling, or for example, in the film industry. I can mention, for example, The Witcher, Game of Thrones, cartoons, or Madagascar. And the final export we can put to web pages or to virtual reality. The next step was data collection. My target was Czech embassy in Bamako in Mali. My primary sources was satellite images, pictures, street pictures and videos, or film documents. I combined satellite images from OpenStreetMap, S3, Google Earth, Google Maps, or Southern Czech Republic. How does the generating works in City Engine? The function called getMap will download the OpenStreetMap satellite image to your screen, and after that start drawing the streets and the buildings. In this terrible time, I had to prepare data. So you can see here there are shapes. There are these buildings, and I had to cut buildings behind the hills. But still, it's so large. So in this picture, it's about 30,000 of buildings. So I had to cut to smaller area like this. And here is my progress with modeling. Embassy model is actually a hotel Mikasa. It's an image from Google Earth, and I used Spatial to model this building, this hotel. After that, I export model to STL file and import to City Engine. My next step, sorry. My next steps are I have done introduced to City Engine, data collection. I have done embassy model, and now I'm modeling the city of Bamako. After that, I had to create some scenarios for security planning and manual modeling. The yellow polygon means district called ACI 2000. There are about 1,500 buildings. It's about 4 square kilometers. I would like to have them in basic shapes. The closed area, the blue polygon, there are about 250 buildings, and I would like to have them in better quality with height, weight, and length. And the blue marker means the model, the embassy. And I would like to have about 25 buildings around the model with real size and texture. And the last screen is creating security planning scenarios with visibility analysis and trade manual. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Daniel, for presentation. I think there is a question.
Yeah, from my point of you, it looks like you have a lot of work in front of you. But I would like to ask about next slide. This one. What is the difference between basic and height, width, and length? How basic building look like?
Basic, I mean this white buildings. Okay.
Yeah. But they have length, width, and height.
They have a height. It's only white and length.
Okay, so the height is the same for all the buildings.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And why you use STL to convert data from SketchUp to CDE?
Because it was the best of desktop formats I tried. There are about 7 or 8 formats to export to, and STL was the best one because it had a texture on the building that I used, and another format doesn't.
So you put the STL with texture?
Yeah.
How you make it? It is not possible. Because STL is only preserving some colors, but not texture, definitely. So it is not possible. No, it's just the format is not allowed you to do that.
No, I agree with everything.
And is it with textures or there are just the colors?
Just the colors. It's not because it's different, the texture and the colors. Be careful. The colors or the texture?
Oh, but the other building has textures.
Textures.
Yes.
Yeah, but you transfer only to one, only to all the buildings.
Sorry.
You transfer all buildings or only one building?
I transfer 2 of them, and 2 of them are modeled in city.
Okay, I would like to see it, really, how we make it.
Okay.
And have you seen my master thesis 10 years ago? I did something with visibility analysis, so maybe there are maybe some tips, but it's quite good.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask about your manual that's going to be in the end. What is it going to include?
Sorry?
What is it going to include? What is going to be in the manual?
Yeah, there is a manual in English, and I will create this in Czech.
So you will just translate it?
Translate and put some like different phrases what I
And does the city engine have extension for Czech language?
know.
Then why do we need to manual say it in English? And we yourself will say it in English.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, you can of course, like check manual with the English, names of the objects or so, but I'm just wondering about this.
Because it's a real project for satellite center, and I think they could use it for.
Yeah, I just argue that people in satellite center would know English and use English official language.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, yeah.
Okay, maybe it will be.
I mean, if you define the institution itself would be checked, then yes, not it's not.
Okay, good point. Thank you.
Thank you. I will stop the discussion now and we will go to the next speaker.
Another question from the sorry.
Yes, I just want to question. Do you in this building only the Czech embassy or also other embassies?
I don't know. I only know it's Czech embassy here.
So maybe you have some other European countries in there interested in that.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Maybe there are other European countries in the same buildings could be interested in that.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah. Okay. We have running out of time, so we can leave this discussion in the foyer.
Yes.
So I would like to take this. You can start.
So, okay, hello everyone. My name is Soli Wittner. Today I would like to talk about my master thesis about application of geodesign in RDS geoplanners. So, the main task or the main goal of my master thesis is use geodesign approach and create case studies in geoplanner and also create a manual for this application in Czech. So, what's geodesign? Geodesign is a combination of design and geography. And we can also say that geodesign is the thought process comprising the creation of an entity in the place like zone. We can describe four-part process of geodesign. It's people, geosciences, geoinformation technologies, and total design. So we can say that geodesign is multi or transdisciplinary approach. And the most personalities of geodesign are, for example, Karsteinitz, Geodemont, or Marco Kuchar. Geoplanner, it's web application created and developed by Comparesi. It's a support application for urban planning, sketching, drawing, and also participation. The application has three main logos, is a three main parts. I can say it's for exploration, there are tools for analysis, for manual, for multimedia analysis. Also, the design, there are tools for designing, drawing, sketching, and evaluation. There are tools for comparing, participation, 3D visualizations. Now, let's talk about my case studies. Nowadays, I have 3 case studies that are in something different because I would like to test all possibilities, how can be geoprint used or how can be geoprint useful. So it means what the potential is application. Also, I'm using different sources of data sets. But let's talk about case studies. Let's talk about more about case studies. The first case study is Lidice. It's a small village which is located near the city Mucha. And the area of interest lies in the middle of the village. It's I think pretty small area, and this case study is not so huge or complex. But this study is with participation of local municipality and also local inhabitants. And here I'm creating my own land use scenarios, also my own 3D visualizations. And here I am with some practical example in geometry. Hello. Yeah. So here you can see 2 different scenarios that are based on meeting with mayor of the village, and also that are based on my own experiences. And here you can see design in 3D, which I created. The models of these buildings were created first in SketchUp, and then I imported them to this application. So let's go to the presentation. This I can skip. The second case study. The area of interest of this study is industry with low commercial in compounds. And the area is defined by the regulation plan number 15. And it's for military complex. And it's about land use scenarios, this case study, because regulation plan wants this study to incorporate again into the city structure. And here will be created, or I'm creating land scenarios. I'm creating my own scenarios. And also one scenario is based on the real study by architect Harvanek, sorry. And another scenarios will be based on dissertation by Jan Pinas. These scenarios were already created in the game called City Skylines by PC Plat. And I would like to import land views of the stage from the game to the geoplanner and compare them and evaluate to the other scenarios of our game. The first case study, here the board has not started yet, but the area of interest is the walls of the Yoga. This case study is with cooperation with company partner because they have a contract. with the city, and it's about multi-criteria analysis. So here I'm be evaluating land use suitability for urban development. Also, I will find and detect some new areas for development for housing, for array, for light industry. So what will be in the end? Again, will be case studies, the online projects, and 2D and 3D visualizations. And of course, I would like to create one story map. I'm not sure it will be about case study almost or about case study Halice. Manual form geocolor in Czech, and also text web page option. That's all. Thanks for attention.
Thank you all for presentations, and if you have some questions.
Ola, can you explain me what's the difference between this geoclimate tool and ordinary ArcGIS? Because also into ArcGIS, I can import some 3D models and visualize it. Like, what's the difference in the functionality?
I think that geoclimate is more easier to understand, to use. It's measured for participation with municipality because you can start on web page. So you don't need, for example, ArcGIS graph, and they can, like normal people use sketching tools and so on. I think it's also in Czech language, so I think it's easier.
I have a question. Does these apps which you showed in your presentation are satisfying with your goals? Are you planning to use another some advanced 3D visualization tools or which you showed to us that you will concentrate on them?
I have to say that I think essay means that this application is not for specific 3D modeling. It's an application which presents data. It's about how can city be, what's the people, I don't know, where people can walk and so on. For simulation, it's just application for designing for ideas, and it will be hard to import specific models.
I have a question. Is there any possibility to involve public into the application? I mean, can they vote for something, or can do the decision or whatever?
I think that we can create scenarios. We can create new scenarios, and I don't know, maybe people want. We can draw these ideas and then and then we can these ideas compare it possibly.
Yeah, so I think see the main advantage in that, because you're presenting 2 scenarios and you're asking, or maybe 4 scenarios, and you're asking which one is the better. So it means that maybe it can be one possible way how to test it, but it's up to you. Thank you.
And these 3D models of buildings, they are made in Spatial?
Yes.
I think it's done. Thank you. I would like to ask Andrzej.
Hello, my name is Andrzej Maciek, and welcome to my presentation. The big acceleration of changes in traffic intensities in selected regions of Czechia. This is supervisor is Real. So, objective of work, I will take it shortly. So, research the issue of traffic data, work with data in database, build the visualization with maps and graphs, text evaluation, and create web tables. So data taken from the traffic activity. It's real-time traffic data speed. It's provided missing, and it's again called configure server, and one record would determine data for one section, and the sections are defined by certain bounding boxes, which you can see on this map. And there is a graph about how many sections for each bounding box. Okay. Next, I will show you the structure of the database. Only what we can see the database structure. Most important for us tables, section genomes and sections, which carry information about sections and geometry. And on the right side, you can see structure of table flows, which carry information about traffic light, vector, coordinates, and others, and about time. Then you can see how to get data from those to UG, yes, using arrays. For the region, go to I use this type of analysis. I use analysis according to the time frame, which you can see in this example. Next one, according to the week. Next one, according to season, the place, which I chose this country, and the conversion between these towns. And last one, according to events, like individual events, Christmas, New Year, and specific events for it, and other functions. So you can see the conversion between chosen towns, average traffic for each case. And we work with data. I use these analysis methods, rated data with select, then like aggregate, like average, and count, sound, and minimum, and future plan to use some advanced analytics like and others. That's my workflow. First, I work with data from the database, then use queries, choosing the right methods, the right analysis to get outputs, do the original positions, components, and accelerations. I will go with maps, for example. Use graphs. I should see from a site perspective. Thank you for attention.
Thank you for presentations. Are there some comments?
Yes, I would like to ask about the methods when you showed us. Yes, this one. You showed us the aggregates and the data, and I would like to ask what are going to be the advanced analysis?
Yeah, advanced analysis. That's I plan to use in future. This is like for example, media and cumulative film and others.
Yeah, you mean media? Yeah, I'm sure media is an advanced analysis.
It's advanced analysis from skill query because I'm using extension for skill. It's bank skill DB, and they put its own category, like events analytics, because you don't only write, for example, average, but you have to complete the story with more events. You understand?
Yeah, I understand you. That's not really fair.
I have a question. In the name of your thesis, there is that you evaluate the changes of traffic intensity. And here I see mostly like some statistics, like some minimum, maximum. But I'm missing there are some like changes, some differences, like before and after or something like that. It could be nice to have some maps to show the real change, not the top intensity or the minimum intensity, but some like differences. Maybe it's just about what you think in the future.
Actually, yes, I also have a question about the visualization. As you said in the beginning of the slides, that are you planning to use some tools in addition to your graphs, like as Radek said, like maximum and minimum? For example, there is a website, No Crowding Info says that, like where you can see the load the data and see the changes, like how you plan to compare the changes, like if you in some story map or something like that?
I'm sorry because I don't know the nature like
My question is that your evaluation will be based only on these graphs, like this is the maximum, this is the minimum, or you might plan to use some tools.
Yeah, the base is to use these things. I'm sure I should, but maybe I could.
You have said same data. So my question is, do you plan to explore time series during some time series decomposition? Because I suppose it's normal that there is a season. During the day there is a flow up and down of the jam and so on. And I think there will be interesting to compare the seasonality in time series, because maybe in Brno, in Ostrava, in Prague, and so on, maybe the trend during the day is different. Maybe in Prague starts or Ostrava earlier and go to some factory with some, they start in 6 hours in the morning and so on. Do you plan the composition of time series?
Well, it's a very good point. I want to look on it. Yes.
I suppose it will be interesting and make it for some parts. It's not possible to make for all segments, because you have a lot of segments, but select some interesting segments in the town and make time series decomposition. And evaluate the trend, because the trend is a change. And your the part of the thesis evaluation of changes. So trend explain the change.
And also, it's not a question, I just want to share my experience that since I'm also dealing with traffic visualization, it's a very crucial thing that in the beginning of the slide, it will mention that it will be maybe day, or it will be like decade, or weekend, or week, or month. Like if you're going to build some math, I guess the week will be very good, very good value for that, because day it will be too detailed. Like it depends which goal you're trying to reach.
Yeah, I think these also examples and then I want to.
It wasn't the question. I just shared my experience that it's very like a crucial point to select the time as Mr. mentioned, like the time aspect. Like it will be per week, per month, or per day. For example, in big cities, yes, like Prague, Australia, days will be good. But in some small cities, like we also.
Okay. I will start this discussion. We need to move forward because we are running time. Thank you, Andro. And the last speaker in the session is Yanhua. It's yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Yanhua Liu from CDE program. So today I want to introduce about Geovisualization football animated visualization. So I'm a super football lover. So yeah, I love a lot about football and want to do a lot in my master thesis. So the end of my research, I want to create some standardized and automatic workflow of the football animated visualization with the JSON environment, and also creating some animation visualization based on the 2D style and also some environmental work, and also analyzing the outcome and the result with some coach and player by some user survey or something. So here are some examples of the traditional football the visualization work. For example, here of course we know that Messi is better than Ronaldo, but if we want to know in detail that how Messi is better, then with some non-spatial statistic graph, that we can know that by this kind of the visualization work. So then, so we have this kind of maybe contain some spatial as a static map here that, for example, Barcelona here that everyone will pass to Messi. But if we want to know about some time series, when they did pass to Messi or how is their time, and also about the spatial and temporal structure, it's also hard to present by this kind of the static map. And also the heat map here, that here if we want to ask is it 26 minutes or the 65 minutes, that we don't know how to show in such kind of information. For positioning map is also kind of good for some maybe a basic structure, but the thesis we could show here only in 1 or 2 players. If you show too many players here, it will be really messy that we don't know that anything happened in this kind of statistic map. So football is kind of a spatial temporal sport, and I think that we could not only use some static map, but we need to use an animation plus the hidden map, plus positioning map, and turn into the static map the dynamic. That's what I want to do in my master thesis. So in the pre-processing working flow, we will collect some checking data and combine with the event data, some temporal data together. Then we'll analyze, put it in the database and analyze the page about the analysis, about the player, and also the mesh data, the first and the second part. The whole working flow will be shown like this. That's from the mesh that we have as an event, and also checking that each player, how they play, and then we will combine pre-processing our data in the ArcGIS or the Geovisualization environments, and then it's the extension from connecting the ArcGIS to the Adobe, Adobe CC, and by the Adobe that it has the different vector layers like the football mesh and also other event we will merge them together, and then use the Adobe After Effects to do all the animation work. And finally, we will also use some user tests about everything. So this is some sample data. So right now we have from the left side we can see this is for the event data, is it the toss or shoot or some penalty maybe happen. And the middle is some time series from the start time or the end time of that kind of event. And from the right side we could see the coordinate about which player that what's their detailed position. So with this data we could do some animation work. So this is some simple demo that we right now we haven't made, but keep in mind that this is really simple. It's not what I expected and what I'm not going to present in view next year for our graduation. It's just a simple give result to show that how animation could better present. For example, the network analysis here for the strike or the defense that we could see from this kind of defense. Maybe the coach or the football player could better know that what they will do maybe in the next week or in the next match. This kind of the running time when this shooting and the goal result. As you can see from the purple side, there is a really good and fast, but when they're shooting, there is a direction, a sudden movement, that there is a blank here. So with a blank, they could go. And then with this kind of visualization, combined with the GIS environment, that we could do the better to show how the whole system works and what kind of effect that we could show. So this is an outlook now, and then the last week that we have like covered with bundle with the sports science faculty of the UPOR, and we try to like collect some data. They will provide some data for us, and also like maybe we will do more directly from adapted to the hardware, like by maybe some API or SDK from some football data, like the hardware, and we collect from some smart device, and then like directly to the visualization working mode. And maybe in the future, like what I expect is some result for this, the whole master topic will be maybe like the real-time analysis system. We're also considering that when the match is like playing at the same time that we could present, and also maybe like some 3D effect like comparing the their coordinate, but it will also hard for to collect about the whole like the coordinate, the football height. Yeah, of course we know that it's really everything in detail, and also like some the replay effect of the 360 degrees. So I think that's the outlook, and also the what I have to do in my progress now. But maybe like in the future we could also like do more in this part. So yeah, this is all I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you for presentation and place those questions.
I have a question. I don't know if you mentioned that, but how the user test will look like? You mentioned that eventually will the user test. How it will look like?
So I think we'll create a whole system first, and then show like the coach and the football player about that if they could have some valuable effect. Because sometimes if you like try to evaluate the football kind of visualization system, you need to like have the feedback from the coach and the football player. Like we'll show here that do you think that with this kind of structure that is a good structure for the defense or the strike? Like for example, here is a corner. Maybe they will think that like the defense is too loose. Like we still have effect. They will score that. Yeah, maybe with your visualization work now that next time maybe this player like 18 he should sit more closer, or he should like position more like close to the door or the corner structure. Yeah. So I think this kind will be some valuable for them. And of course, we know for the traditional visualization, like the status graph, like what we showed just now, that they couldn't know that next time they should see like here or here by some heat map or by some positioning map, like that kind of. So animation should be the only method, like I think, as a football player myself for more than 10 years to solve this problem. Okay.
And the target group of your output will be the coaches and the players?
Yeah.
Not the general public, like?
Well, general public watching games will be better, but for like for the football, the whole I hope to be the whole system will be more valuable and will be has some real effect. So we could also like build some for the public, but it shouldn't be like really complicated with some area that in detail that how to show and also stack together. Because in my like expected outcome that a different video maybe at the same time you will put in one system, like maybe the animation heat map, animation position map, or something that we stack together, and they could evaluate a sudden moment at the same time. Like some player when he shoot at the same time, which player is heat map like sometime, or like position map, like is it the whole structure, is it changing? So this is like for me, I think it's more valuable for the coach, for the whole like, football, especially for the professional football club. Yeah, like FC or Moods, that could be better.
Okay, and can you tell us how the data are obtained? How they are recorded, if they got some GPS or
yeah. So last week, Professor Natic and we went to the sports science faculty, and then we like talked with the manager there, and they show us how they. So they are like two kind of the data that as we show here, like the event data and tracking data. So tracking data could be collected by some GPS, a smart device, or maybe it will merge to your something like by the arms. But with the tracking data, that you don't know what happens to the event. So if we want to collect some event data, we will also they could collect it by some camera or the CCTV. Like they will put around the football match and stadium, and then after the match, we'll watch that replay and then see together and collect maybe ourselves or try to analyze by some their movement or some ball that is here, like shooting or penalty or do something else.
Yes, from analytical point of view, your app or your final, say, software will be very good for analytics, both for the coach and for the player.
Yeah.
But are you building this based on some example or something like that? Or I'm pretty sure that you are not like the first who are making this kind of analysis, like from the above. You and players can see this is wrong, this tactic is good.
Yeah.
Are you building your app based on some example and trying to avoid their disadvantages, or you are building something completely new?
Okay, so first to answer this important question is that we are geoinformatics and geovisualization faculty. So football analytics is good, but it's not like our main target of the whole system. We want to make it more like for the visualization part. Like before, as you mentioned, I'm not the first one. Of course, like football has a more than 100 years history, and also in these 20 years, and lots of funding that put into the whole football analytics, like for the system and also hardware, software, everything. But for the visualization part, for me, then we also check lots of the website and also the hardware device, like their outcome, I think is not like good enough. Like most of them, they are still like using like this kind of heat map. They will give you like for a match, like this kind of heat map, they may create for 22 players, like for each players, they will create one hard match for them, and then look yourself and how you work, how you run. But as a football player myself, in my culture, show me the heat map like this kind. I couldn't learn more about this. Like I know that maybe like here I run more, but is it like 30 minutes or 80 minutes? That's a big difference. Like 80 minutes I'm tired, 30 minutes I'm good, but I need to know that when did I run in this place. But with the animation work, I know that. Like animation, I could like just turn in a system to 30 minutes or 30 minutes I run it really fast, like 20 kilometers an hour. But in 80 minutes, maybe it's just like 10 kilometers and it's super slow and I'm tired, so yeah.
Thank you. Some more questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you already have like any agreement with the coaches if they are interested already in the results, for example, from the UFO.
Yes, so from the BALU, the sports science faculty, so like we right now that they have agreed that to provide like with the API and also the with the data they will provide it, and they also like look forward to maybe what we present for the better visualization work for the animation. They also need there like to evaluate, like we mentioned, they have lots of the training program about the speed of the player and sometimes, but we also watched their demo, but we think that demo is quite like simple and not like good for the visualization, so maybe we can make it like better. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. More questions? Looks like, thank you for presentation. Thank you. And we finish the first section. So now the plan was to have the break until the 10:30, but we can prolong it to 10:35. So be here please on time and we will continue. Thank you. Je to na tom
no jasně, já jsem slíbil, že ho dám, ale dal jsem ho.
I No, it's only on the background. Tam oni říkali, že se to dívají.
No jo, ale momentálně někdo z nich se připojí, tady mám to nemůže. Teď to někdy z někoho, kdo No, tak to bylo pomáhat, že byla tam, ale no a to mám tady někomu posledný jenom nebo něco. Tak já to tak jo. Tak jako já jsem tak ten měl zkušel všechno. Podle jezera. A jsem byl. No a přední věc. Já jsem si někde taky zvolil, ale teraz bych bylo nějaký
So remember, as I said, that according to the law, so even if she will apply, she will have according to the law get the answer like every week. So we don't know. We don't know. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's fine.
Okay, please. We will continue with the next session. The next presenter will be Filip Urbančík. This presentation about the European cities. So, Filip, is yours.
Okay, so hello. My name is Filip Urbančík, and the topic of my presentation is the similarity of European cities and their functional areas. The thesis supervisor is Associate Professor Zdeněk Bišová. So this is the thesis assignment of what is exactly written in the stack, so I will read it now. So the aim of the thesis is to apply different similarity and dissimilarity metrics to land use perimeters of European cities and find groups of similar cities. The source data are land use from the Copernicus Urban Atlas. So the first step which I have done during the summer holidays was research and some literature. So I provided literature and did some research on my own on the internet already about the Urban Atlas. So this was the next part of my process. So it was the data download and data processing. I wanted to use the newest Urban Atlas 2018, but I have found out it's only partially validated. So after finding out the validation report, I found out that there are already 470 cities out of the 900 validated. So I thought it was a good number. So I used the Urban Atlas 2018. And after checking the population, I have downloaded about 120 cities in the range of 50,000 to 250,000 inhabitants. The next step was the data processing, which was a very time-consuming process because I had to manually process each city and each urban core and functional area. I thought about some automated process, but since I'm not very good at programming and I had a lot of time, I did it manually. So it was my work for the past 2 months. I imported the cities in the ArcGIS, I clicked the course, then I exported the tables into Excel, and by using contingent tables in Microsoft Excel, I have created the summary statistics for each city and urban core. So this is just to see what I have done. There are 26 classes for each city, and I have created 5 parameters, the sum of the area, smallest polygon, largest polygon, and the average size of the polygon, and the number of polygons for each class. So these are 5 parameters for my land use metrics. This is just to show why I did it separately, the urban core and the functional urban area. As you can see on the left, in the red, this is the urban fabric, so it will be the most influential factor in the similarity analysis. And on the right, the yellow and green, these are forests, so these factors will be the most influential in the similarity analysis. So my work for the next month is doing some further research on data mining tools and doing the statistical analysis. These are the 2 workflows, some 2 examples. The first one is this one is the neighbor tool in OL software, where we can find the similar cities based on one input city. And this is just only on the number of polygons for each class. And the second one is the hierarchical clustering, which will create the dendrogram, which we see on the right side of the picture. And it will be, these are the clusters of the similar cities based on the input parameters. These are just 2 examples. Since I have a lot more parameters and a lot more cities, I can create a lot more these analysis, and it's upon my research on what I will do. So this is my work for the next month. As you can see on this Gantt chart, my work is now the further research on data mining and the semiotic analysis, which go hand in hand, because when I'm doing the research, I can already try that doing in the analysis. And that is all from me. Thank you for the attention.
Okay, thank you, Philip, for presentation. Is there any question?
I will ask, it's nice that you have a lot of time, so you can do that manually, but do you think that it might be better to find some automated solution for reproducibility of the study?
I wanted to have some results already, because if I did not do the automated process, then I will have a less time to do the actual work. So I have downloaded the 100 cities to create the analysis, and now I can think about the automating the process if I wanted to download more cities, so the analysis which will happen.
So I think it will be good.
Yes,
for if someone else would.
Yes.
And it's not only to be faster or slower. In general, the mathematics is about finding a new way. So that you will develop a new way for somebody else.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that you are having the last data, which will be very soon, or maybe what happen if they provide it until you submit it. So if you have the solution, you just automatically use this data for processing, and then you can use the data. But now you need to do it in more to months. Yeah, thank you. Seems that everything is clear. So good luck with your work, and I would like to ask the next speaker, which is Spatial.
Hello, my name is Spatial, and I would like to present you my thesis topic: classification and time analysis of passenger and cargo transport on regional railways. This supervisor is Associate Professor of the General. The aim of the work is to perform classification and time analysis of traffic on selected regional railways in the Olomouc and Moravia Station region, which is based on time evaluation of measured data, classification of lines and stations with identification of line and station with similar time progression or with specifically different traffic. For the work, I used the data of railway infrastructure workload. The data are provided in the form of tables, including information of rail usage in monthly aggregations by type of rail transport for period from 2016 to 2021. And the data consists of two parts. The first part is totals for measuring locations, and the second part is the data for section between these locations. And the data contain tables, for example, for number of trains or rate of trains that pass through these locations or sections. The first part of data processing was selection of measuring locations and sections which are located on regional railways in Olomouc and Moravia Sales region. And from this selection were created two special layers, one for measuring location and one for sections. In this review, you can see the selected data. Green color is for the locations and sections located on regional railways, and red color is for sections and selections, locations and sections located on railway corridor, which are not used in this work. So I'm working with 228 measuring locations and 426 sections. Other part of data preprocessing was the creation of area monthly aggregation for values for sections and locations by using pivot tables.
For aggregate tables and special errors, I can make some simple visualizations. These simple visualizations can help me to better understand the distribution of traffic in the region. In this previous, we can see the heavy workload on railways around Ostrava. And for time series, I show 3 specific examples. The number of passenger trains at the station Mladec shows there is only seasonal traffic 4 months in summer. And also I discovered there is some decrease in the number of trains in September 2020, which can be caused by some river down. Next example is a measuring point near automotive factory in Nošovice. The number of cargo trains rapidly decreased in spring in 2020 when I was first COVID lockdown. So I can say the factory reduced the production. The example is very well Ostrava and Zator, which is represented by this section. And there we can see 3 drops which are caused by railroad closure. The part of the pre-processing is done. Also, in this part, I also clear data from self-mounting effect. And at the moment, I'm working on time series with decomposition series into different cycle, seasonal, and random components. And next step is classifying location and sections using different clustering methods. And also I try to use principal component analysis. After that I make some visualizations.
Thank you, Lukas, for presentation. Questions?
I have 2 questions. If you go back to the map of the corridors, there is one. This is Ramstenberg on the left map, the brown map. There is, the wider line and then thin line. How this can be caused? And the train ended in Bohunice or Starnov, or?
Understand. And this is I will try to present the difference in traffic.
Yeah, but how this difference can happen, in some small village? Yeah, I will understand if the white line will end in Stemberg, so some trains ended in Stemberg and it does not continue. But I think this is Starnov or any similar small village, and I do not expect that any train ends in Starnov. And I was looking to this particular point because there was a reconstruction of the railroad. I'm not sure if it was in 2020 or year before, but how you go with that some railroads were not operating for, let's say, one year, from almost September to Nitro.
I can discover that in time series. As I say, the Ostrava and Martina Moravia, there was a big closure in 2016.
Okay.
So very good for the railroad.
Okay, and second small question. Please show the things with Mladec. Yeah, I think that the lockdown was in October after the election. So this is weird, and it might be not caused by COVID, but something else.
This is definitely caused by the trains go from the mid-June to the mid-September. So they are not operating all the month.
Yeah, but in the previous years, like 2018, the September was the.
Yeah, there was probably some change.
Yeah, maybe they changed the timetable. Yeah, so but you have to be sure where you are, stating that this is due to COVID, it might be better to know.
So, one more question from my side. You are having data about the trains or about the wagons, or how it looks like the data. So means because you all the time you mentioned that you have these the trains, the number of trains. So how you then calculate the passengers value and how you calculate the cargo value? You have number of trains.
I have data for measuring locations and the sections, and I summarize the values.
Can you show me the table with what you have there?
You see the paragraph.
Yeah, it's number of trains.
Yeah, but this is about the cargo.
Yeah.
How I go for the passenger trains and the cargo trains.
Yes.
So these are passenger trains.
Passenger trains. Yes.
And you calculate the number of passengers based on their weight.
Yes.
Okay, so
I can make a sum of the weight of all the trains, all the cargo trains that pass through the point or section.
yeah, but there are the cargo ones or the passenger ones?
This is example of passengers.
Yes. Yeah, and how you calculate the passengers in the train? Or you don't know it. You don't know. You just put the number of trains.
Number of trains, like of the train set. For example,
because I think with the passenger, it's more crucial to put the not number of trains, but the number of the coaches. Yeah, because it's more telling because in the coaches there are limited numbers of seats, and then you can actually calculate because you don't have the data about the passengers. But if you put the number of trains, it can be trained with one wagon, it can be trained with the 7 coaches. So and then it's very hard to calculate the differences with the passengers. With the cargo ones, of course, they are about the weight because it's the main thing. Yeah, but with the passengers, it's a little bit different, I think. Just taking into consideration.
The weight of passenger is not.
The weight of passenger, I don't think that you can be able to calculate this. Maybe somehow. If you know how much it's weight, the normal train without passengers, then you can. Yeah. So just be careful with the results. Okay.
I have one more question or no. I don't agree much with your distinguishing of regional and not regional tracks because I understand you didn't include corridors, but there are a lot of tracks which have strong interregional importance, almost Omaha to Brno, or from Szerov going to Brno, or from Hranice going to Slovakia, and I wouldn't consider those tracks to be regional. For me, I'm not very
I selected based on this map, which
I see, but there are also very important tracks for interregional transport, which are not corridors, in fact.
Maybe it's a matter of the naming here, so you say not regional, but those who are not corridors or something.
Yeah, maybe just
non-corridor.
Use the correct words for defining those tracks.
Yeah, I'd like to ask about the name, the thesis, because it says classification, and I kind of don't understand what are you going to classify. Is this the classification on the regional and corridor?
I will classify the sections and the measuring points based on time progression, based on weight and number of trains.
Finally, we'll have some classes of the or some clusters or some different way of the
Classification and try clustering methods with different.
Yeah, I see the comments. Okay. Perfect. Okay. More questions? Okay. Thank you, Lukasz. Simona, please.
So my name is Simona, and I would like to present you my progress about my thesis application of collocation patterns in spatial data. Well, one of my goals is to make some research about what is collocation pattern to understand it well, and then to design 3 case studies by using tool in ArcGIS for collocation analysis. And on the end, write documentation, write the manual about this tool. As I said, I had to first know what is collocation analysis, what is collocation pattern, to make some research. Actually, all these pictures are from my research, and there were written a lot of things like which algorithm I can use. Of course, ArcGIS, and my tool is using different algorithms that is written in the research, and the way or the aim of this tool is to count local collocation quotient between 2 categories or 2 features of interest. One is category of interest, it means like what I would like to know, and then is neighbor category, and they have some defined neighborhood, which might be defined by k-nearest neighbors, then distance them, and spatial weight from some external file. The result or the output of this tool or analysis is a new layer in the project with 5 classes, which actually doesn't have to be presented in data, because it can happen that in some of the data you will not have significant points or features. Another class is qualitative, not significant and isolated or undefined. In my first case study, which I completed, I used pharmacies and subject of public health because I wanted to know if there is some spatial association or, let's say, simply relationship between them. And I created 8 variants of, let's say, input data, because I got some duplicate records in my study area, which was very city. So I made 8 variants, and also I used buffer around the edge of it. Here's one of my outputs. Just I would like to show you the distribution of the points where pharmacies were a subject of public health, and some simple result. You might see that I use 3 k-nearest neighbors, and there's the result of them. Here you might see it again with the detail, and the result is that no pharmacy is collocated significant, but at least most of the pharmacies are not significant collocated. Some of them, they are also isolated, as you might see here, which visually we can say that they don't have some subject of public health around. Then for compare, I have another. On the left side, I have a new duplicate record, so they will be deleted. And on the right side, there is a version with duplicate records, and you can see differences that make sense to keep duplicate records, which is actually the reality. Next case studies, as I said, I finished first already. Then I would like to make a second about pirates or data pirates, and then crimes in Philadelphia. That's all for me. Thank you for.
Okay, thank you for presentation. Now it's time for questions.
I have the same question I had before about the manual. Why does it need another manual? Because there are 2 of them already.
Yeah, that's a bit different manual, let's say more practical, that I will use one of my case study in this manual, and I will show them, maybe to give them some advice, because a manual from ArcGIS is quite different. It's a description of which input, what means which input, and some of settings.
Well, I would like to ask you how it's the time demands on the make the analysis, let's say with the pharmacists and the hospital care. So how long it takes to make this kind of analysis? Because if you download the voice, I guess, from somewhere, then you do the analysis in the software. Do you do some another like changing with the data or modification or whatever, or just you put these two joint layers into the software and you will get the results?
Not completely. As I said, there were some duplicate records.
Yes.
So I had to like I use deep and I sum up in Greek how many points there are for I can at least see that in some spatial specific place there is, for example, 8 points. And I had to, let's say, delete them and keep just one. But on the other version, I use all, because I wanted to compare if there is some differences. So I found out that there is. So that was the main, but also in the data there were some, I don't know, some other points. I downloaded data set, not just the pharmacies, some other points were there, so I had to extract them.
Yeah, and the second thing, maybe the question with the time, with the scale of the, because you made the kernel, so is it possible to make it for like the whole region or almost district or whatever? I know it's about the data, but if you have the data, it will be possible to make it, because maybe the collocation will be different because you are speaking with different scales. So
yeah, sure, it will be different. I'm sure about that. But the more coins you will use, the longer time it will take. And also it's kind of setting permutation, number of permutations. And if I will use, I use the highest number. If I will use highest number in 1,000 points, I don't know how long it will take.
Yeah, but maybe you should test it because.
Yeah, I will, sure. I will test it in another case study. Okay.
And actually, I would like to ask for the next study. So the pilots will be about what? About what will be the data for this case study?
Well, there are some open data for it. I was thinking about peninsula, about around Arabian. And also there are some data not just compiled, but I can select them. I just color the pilot with. And there is, I don't know, actually, maybe 10 years, maybe more than 10 years of attacks.
So, and what will be the collocation pattern? What are you searching for? If it's the dependency of pirates on what? Of the number of ships, or how we want to do the collocation?
Actually, I don't have it clear now.
Okay.
So I cannot tell you.
And with the crimes in Philadelphia?
There are, I think, 5 classes of the crimes, like violation, there's some public drunkards, prostitute, and so on. And I am thinking which category to pick. Maybe I will use 2, maybe I will use 3, I don't know yet. And I will like try to find out if there is some coefficient pattern. Because of logically, if there are some public drunkards, maybe there will be some lottery. Like from the real world, you can make some association with some action.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if you have like maybe the pub for boys or the pub collocations, and then you will be searching for collocation with the different crimes. Maybe we'll find out that with this will be connected somehow. Maybe the robbery with the drunk people or whatever, but maybe not. But maybe. But I will definitely try to use maybe the vice versa comparison between this. But if you want, maybe have a nice computer to calculate it. We have computer in the lab, so if you have time to calculate it all the time, so just let me know. Okay, thank you. More comments? Okay, thank you, Simona. Okay.
No other, quindi per le
Hello, my name is Doug Butler, and I want to introduce you my thesis topic map matching of public transport buses location records. Leader of my thesis is Mrs. Denaro Beshara. So first of all, I want to tell you what exactly is map matching. So it is when you get GPS logs from, for example, vehicle path. They have some position errors, and the map matching algorithm do that. We will take these errors, snap them on the network, road network, and create a true path of the vehicle. So workflow of my thesis looks like this. Right now I'm in the phase of testing algorithms and data editing. Next steps will be description of the data editing procedure, algorithms testing or modify data, comparison of algorithms, and descriptions of the procedure of one set algorithm. Next slide, I will talk about these two phases: algorithms testing and data editing. Algorithms. This is slide from my first presentation on first master day. This is the list of some algorithms of map matching tools. And on the next slide, there is a graded list that the ones with check mark are algorithms I've already used or make them work. These are algorithms with question mark that there is possible way that I can make them work, but I didn't do that yet. And this with cross mark, I can use it to my thesis for some reasons. For example, you have to pay for them, or they can snap just a few of GPS logs. Okay, so how this testing of the algorithms looks like. So first of all, I make it works on some testing data, which is just a few points and few roads. Then I will make it works on one certain bus line, because main point of my thesis is make map matching tools work on data from bus lines from Moravskoslezský kraj. So the second step is make it works on one selected bus line. Third step is make it works on more selected bus lines, because there I will have to work with some iteration tools. And the last part will be make it works on selected on time period data, for example, for 1 month or shorter. I don't already know right now. Here's some examples of this data. On the left side, there is testing data from the first step. There is one bus line from the second step, and the first picture shows data which will be which I will work with in the first step. There is some screen from Quagis plugin, which is map matching tool I'm working right now with. So it's quite simple. There's just, as you can see, network layer, trajectory layer, and some maximum distance, survey distance. And also this tool has some
Oh, sorry. Some pre-processing tools like grid network and reduced trajectory density. And that's what I'm talking about in the last part of my presentation. It's about data. So I have some sets of data. The main set is GPS logs from bus lines in Moravskoslezský kraj. Second data set is network, road network. Right now I'm working with OpenStreetMap network, but some communication with someone from SEDA about they could borrow me some StreetNet road network data. And the last two data sets, bus stops and lines, they are not mainly using in map matching, but I use them for pre-processing of data and results check at the end of my thesis. Data, I don't know how to say. GPS logs have a lot of errors and other things. So I have to pre-process these. For example, reduce density of GPS logs, filter error logs, or as I said, grid network layer. So that's all for me, and thanks for your attention.
Okay, thank you, David, for the presentations and the questions from the audience. I have one question, maybe more questions actually. How many lines or data you want to process finally?
Well, I don't know, because I have about 23 gigabyte text file with these logs, these GPS logs, but with my computer it's not possible to make some matching from this big data. So at this slide, mainly I will work probably with this. It's about 10 bus lines, because if I was trying to make matching from this one bus line, then it was about 15 minutes. These two works. So if I will work with 10 bus lines, it will be much more time. So I don't know. I will see.
Yeah, because one thing is the data you have, but you have the data like several per days or during the week. So maybe you have like a time series of data. So you will be doing for one line like several the same applications and see how these perform, or you will just do one line and one time shot and then you will do it. Because if you have a lot of data, so I guess that you get data from the GPS loggers.
Yeah.
But they are doing this every day, let's say, yes. And you have one line, and you can have like 50, 60, 100 days they collected data. So I'm asking if you're doing for all these for one line, or you will be just doing several lines with one day.
I'm doing several lines, for example, for 1 month or
1 month.
Yeah.
So, and the final result will be what? Will be the testing of the algorithms?
The final result will be the comparison of algorithms, which I work with, and description of the procedure of one selected algorithm. So, the conclusion will be that there will be some guide for pre-processing of this data from bus lines, and then some guide to how to use choose tool of map matching.
Because also what I know from the kind of data I work with that, it means that in some areas they lose the connection completely. So and also there's the different signal strength. in different parts. So it means if you're going for, let's say, some mountainous areas or woody areas, you will have very bad coverage of GPS, and the GPS is doing like this. So it means that you maybe have a focus on these parts to try to compare if this algorithm is robust enough to cover this. Because if you do the output the race in the town, so maybe this is not completely the right thing. I think you need to find out the big differences in the data, and also how this will be called if you miss completely the signal. So if you omit the signal because they can be together, and then they can be because can be lost the connection completely. So this is also as possible to calculate.
Yeah, that's why you can just use, for example, snap two roads like in Argus tool. I forgot to mention that most of these algorithms work with linear Markov model with whichever algorithm, which is a model for computing that matching, and they have in this algorithm they should be possible to match the points where the signal was lost. So it should be possible. I didn't, but I haven't tried.
But you need to, I think you need to find it in the data, because I think that you will have this kind of data. So it also, I think, one way how to test the robust of the algorithms, if these algorithms or this way is possible to handle. Yeah, thank you. It's quiet everywhere, so okay, we can finish your presentation. Thank you. So, where is Monica?
Hello everyone, my name is Monika Jilkova, and I would like to introduce my thesis, which is testing of the screen-based webcam eye tracking. My thesis supervisor is Dr. Stanislav Popelka. So the main aims of my thesis are to test webcam eye tracking tools and to make a set of recommendations for using these tools. These are the tasks I have to accomplish. I already have made a selection of the most suitable tool for my thesis, and I've tested the possibilities of this tool. Now I test the tool on users, and I compare it with infrared eye tracker. The next step would be to test it on different webcams. I would pick the best webcam with the best results, and I will do the test again on this best webcam and compare it again with infrared eye tracker. These are the tools I have checked, and some of them don't work at all. Some of them are too expensive or too complicated for the users. So I picked one of the most suitable tool, and that's Gaze Recorder. Gaze Recorder has some advantages and disadvantages. The biggest advantage is that it requires no special hardware or software. You only need any webcam and any web browser. The biggest disadvantage is that although it has free trial version, there is limited number of tested users on the whole account. So if I wanted more than 30 tested users, I would have to create more accounts, or I would have to buy the full version, which is quite expensive. I can download raw data recordings from this tool, and I have to put it into Ogama because I want to compare them and work with them further. And the conversion is quite complicated, so I have to find an easier way how to do it. This is what data visualization looks like in Gaze Recorder. This is a heat map, and these are some areas of interest. So this is all I can see in Gaze Recorder. I can't compare it between each other, so it's quite useless, and that's why I have to put it into Ogama. Now something about testing of the tool. I will test it in the lab. on a webcam and SMI simultaneously. Then I will test it on webcam and Toby simultaneously. And the reason why I do it is because I would have the same data from webcam and infrared eye tracker. I would measure them under the same conditions, under the same lighting and at the same time. Then I would test the tool on the webcams, and then I would test it online, which means that I would send the study to a lot of people and they would do the study at home. Something about the testing in the lab, I would test the study on webcam and SMI at the same time. I would put the results into OGamma and compare it between each other. That would be the first output, and the second output would be from webcam and Toby. But I can't really compare these two outputs because this will be completely different data. So I can only compare the differences between webcam eye tracker and infrared eye tracker. I already have some data, and this is what it looks like in SMI, and this is what it looks like in webcam. The difference is quite big, but the reason is probably that there are quite a lot of points the user have to look at, and the more points I have, the less accurate the webcam eye tracker is. When I had a picture of just 2 points, it was way more accurate. And just a few words about Toby and webcam eye tracking. This is what the visualization looks like in the Toby program, but I currently struggle with exporting the data because I have a long video of the whole study, and I have to split it into small parts according to the pictures, and I don't know how to export it so that I could put it into OGamma. So this is the biggest problem I have to deal with right now. And that's all for me. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, great, Monica. Thank you for presentation and the place for questions from the audience. Okay, I will ask. So, how many cameras will be tested? Only one or several of them?
I will test it on more cameras. It depends on how many I can get. I was thinking about trying to get some cameras here at this building, but it depends on how many cameras I can get. The more, the better.
And how is the algorithm robust against the lights and the conditions in the lab? Did you also test it, or you just did it in the one set of conditions?
I just have the same conditions in the lab, and that's all I care about, and I just look at the results. But then I will have the online testing, and that would be from everyone's computer and everyone's webcam, and that would be a lot different lighting, different conditions. So I will have to compare it.
Yeah, because I see that you can compare it in the lab, so but you have these Toby underneath, so it means that you can say that it's like 20% less precise than the Toby, or it doesn't matter how much is the percentage. But if you make it in the different setup, like let's say at home, how you will know that this camera is performing the same? So it means that how you can calculate the offset and so on.
Well, that's something I have to count on. That's the data would not be the same in terms of the conditions.
Yes, of course, I understand. So it's possible maybe to bring the eye tracker, which can be remotely moved to that and try to do it in different scenarios, maybe within the department or whatever, to see if this is working or not. Because one thing is the lab setting, but a different thing will be the working with the let's say in the lab or in some room, because there can be a lot of different distortion conditions. Okay, Monica, it was quick, but everything was said, so we can move it. So much, Monica, please.
good. Still morning. I would like to introduce into my diploma thesis procedure called the use of think-out protocol in cartographic research. My thesis supervisor is Dr. Stanislav Popelka. Just to remind, think aloud is a method when a tested person verbalizes thought processes aloud when working with the product. The aim is to reveal subjective attitudes like ideas towards the tested product to test its usability. Objectives. The aim of the work is to create an experiment focused on the evaluation of a selected cartographic product using the think-out method. It's divided into 4 steps. First step is to study the possibilities of the think-out method. It's already done and it's written in my document. Second step is to test tools for working with recorded data. It's also done and it's meant like mainly converting speech to text. First step is to create an experiment to evaluate a product. Actually, it's divided into 2 studies. First of them are maps for dog owners, which are maps for my bachelor thesis, and they are just for testing the possibilities of the method, and it's from 80% completed. And second study is some main cartographic product, but we still don't know yet what product it will be. And finally, last step is to analyze and qualitatively evaluate measure data. For the first study, it's still in process.
You are too far from the maybe.
For testing tools for working with recorded data, there were many tools tested. In the beginning, I tried to use some well-known tools for providing speech to text, such as microcertification or dictation in Google documents. But conversion was not ideal, so then I decided to use some specialized tools for providing speech to text. Conversion was better, but there were some limitations, and removing them would cost me a lot of money. So then I decided to use Google model, speech to text model via Google Cloud platform. As you can see, there's an output how it looks. Of course, it's not ideal, but at this moment, it's not a problem to edit it manually by myself. Here are some examples. Google Cloud is free, some extent by our paid programs. Paid programs can usually do something more, like, for example, adding the computation, as you can see over here. For creating an experiment to evaluate the product, it was performed in a lab at our department. So it allows me to make this combination also with eye tracking test, so voice plus eye tracking. Participants were given tasks, they performed them, and during the process they spoke aloud all of their thought processes. For the first field study, I got correspondence. For the next study, I'll have more, as I hope. For analyzing and qualitatively evaluating the mixture data, I was conducted with Mr. Vladimir Metla from the Department of General Linguistics. Together, we decided to use Sketch Engine tool, which allows me to work with collocations, remarks, and words, and so on. Then I will try to make some interpretations with combination of corpus calculator for correct interpretations. Then I will try to also use UDPy for Python, which is library for Python, and which allows me to compare my words, my data with the references words in that library. And also I will evaluate tasks what users have problem with and try to suggest some solutions for item demand. Of what Sketch Engine includes are the most useful things like word lists and grants keywords. We can find which words were mentioned more frequently or in what context. Then I will make some analysis of these words, and eventually I will be able to say if that map was significantly good or significantly bad, according to what people said. That's it for me. Thank you for attention. If you have any questions, please just tell me now or later. You are making it interesting.
Okay, thank you for presentation and the question now, please.
I'd like to ask, what is going to be the main result? Going to be the text?
Yeah, there will be 2 main results. First of them is step-by-step instructions for how to create and think out experiments. And second output is actually the evaluating of the product, that specific product.
Maybe I will ask, even I know the supervisor, because I don't have time to discuss it with you because of pool. The sketch engine will be the final tool that you will use in the thesis?
No, as I said, Spatial is main tool for making analysis, but there will be also unique type library for Python, where I will compare my data with the references data, and also I will evaluate that by myself by video records.
Okay. And this decision was made on the basis of the discussion with.
Yeah.
I have one question concerning this. Will it be somehow possible to then defer the time when the person was speaking concerning several things which was on the monitor in different ways? So we were recording the time he is watching something, but then try to pair this sentence with the image or what they see. So because the thing aloud can be done after that, or it can be done during the testing. But if you do it during the testing, so and you have this transcript. So maybe if you have a timestamp or whatever, it can be maybe the connection with the image somehow. I just asking if it is possible.
Yeah, and what do you think? Specialized tools for transferring speech to text can do this. Like there are some pairing these texts with that video record. But I decided to use think aloud like in post-processing way, transferring those data and just analyzing the output.
Okay.
I have two recommendations. We had one presentation 4 years ago from Brno, University of Brno, about data mining of text, and it was concerning evaluation of hotels on Booking.com, evaluation of the work, and there was a division to good attitude and bad attitude, satisfied with the accommodation. So I recommend the presentation somewhere, and this and they use some software, some extension, and it's easy to find it. And I am not that my mind. And the second Orange software, you are familiar with it, from has an edition about data mining of text. Maybe some. I didn't practice it, but it's only information for you, and maybe try to practice it, because I think there is opportunity to divide the work for the group of thematic, like dog and so on, and the work concerning cartography, like title and subtitle and so on. Maybe find some interesting information. I don't know, it's only idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, finished. Thank you so much. So, next speaker is Anna.
Okay, hello everyone, my name is Anna, and I want to present my master thesis in user evaluation of interactive COVID-19 dashboards under the supervision of Dr. Roberta. First of all, what is a dashboard? It's a graphical user interface that aims to display information with one or more objectives, and usually in a single screen, so the information can be monitored at a glance, and it's combined with different elements, maybe blocks of text and charts and tables, but it can also include maps, therefore special information. And dashboards are nothing new, but since COVID-19, their popularity has increased a lot. And we can evaluate their design and functionalities by performing user evaluation with different methods. In this case, we use eye tracking to obtain quantitative data, and we use questionnaire and interviewing to obtain the qualitative data. Then the objectives of the thesis are divided in 3 goals. The first goal is to perform user evaluation on existing dashboards, and therefore we can obtain some insights about their design functionalities and their usability. And we can also develop some hypotheses based on that. And then the second goal of the thesis will be to, according to these insights, develop 2 dashboard interfaces. And finally, the third and last goal of the thesis will be to perform the user evaluation on the self-developed dashboards to test the previously established hypothesis. A little bit more about each goal. The first one is about the existing dashboard user evaluation. So we have to select some dashboards and we have to perform the user evaluation on them. And these are the 4 selected dashboards, and the user evaluation will be performed by the eye tracking method, by recording the eye movement of the participants, as well as performing some tasks and evaluating if they are successfully or failed so. And these are some examples of tasks they can perform, such as identifying the total cases, a specific country, specific date, or maybe compare between regions and different time. And again, this will be also combined with a questionnaire interview to obtain the qualitative part of the data. And the ideal sample would be compounded by more or less 20 participants. Moving on to the second goal, we need the insights of the first experiment to do this. So when we have this, we can think about developing the dashboards. The plan will be to stick to the topic, which is COVID-19 again. And we have to select a study area. I would like to do it in my region, which is Catalonia. It's in the northeast of Spain. And they provide daily data in their open data portal in CSV format for different administrative levels, as well as different COVID metrics, not only cases but also vaccination and other numbers. But this is just a plan. This has to be still be more detailed, and also I still need to explore a bit technologies and other things regarding dashboard development. And finally, the last goal, we also need the results of the first experiment because we will develop some hypotheses, and then we can also evaluate the usability of the dashboards that will be developed by again using the same methodology as in the first experiment. What I've done so far has been the literature review of the thesis, as well as getting familiar with the technologies and methods related to eye tracking, from the apparatus to record the eye movement, to like the software to create the experiments, as well as the software to, after processing the data and analyze it, as well as visualizing it. And this is basically a plan and summarizing everything what I've said so far. And the last step I've been working on was the preparation of the first experiment, and the next step is to start recording the data to be analyzed. And as I said, I need 20 participant samples, so if anyone would be interested in participating, I would be very gladly to welcome you. So, okay, sorry. This is my contact, and I thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you for the presentation. So, question.
Yes, I would like to ask. I know you said you don't have the results yet, but based on the literature review, do you have already a small idea about what challenges you may have during this work?
Not challenges. I have a bit of idea of what to expect because of the literature review and what I've been learning in the lab so far, and basically I'm starting to learn which outcome you get out of recording data, such as you focus on the fixations of the people or the trajectory of their life movement, as well as what I said, more qualitative side of it, like if the usability is appropriate or not, and they can therefore solve tasks in a shorter or longer time span, as well as their opinions in the questionnaire side. But until I don't really perform it, I don't exactly know how it's gonna look like. But I'm learning about it, and that's my aim right now.
I'm going to divide the dashboards into some groups because some of them contains only maps, some of them contains multimedia, some of them contains only charts. So
yeah, basically I forgot to mention that probably, but the dashboards have been selected according to the fact that they have different visualization elements, so they are not all the same. They are not like quantitative symbol, or they don't have the same type of charts, but they have 4 of them have different elements, different functionalities, and different visualization widgets, maybe, or so. Then we can get more and more insights about how often or how usable is a specific element in each dashboard.
Okay, maybe concerning this, I see also that you have different dashboards, but you're asking completely different questions. So will it be possible somehow maybe to ask the same question within the different dashboard to get the which dashboard is performing well? Because now if you have different questions, it will be very hard to compare. But if you have,
I think it's more about, actually, I think all of the dashboards have main question about identifying cases, like accumulated cases by last update, for example. But I think, I'm not sure, I should maybe revise that with my supervisor, but I think it's not more about which of these dashboard is more has a better usability, but more about all the elements in the separate dashboards, how they are. So it doesn't matter if one dashboard asks about the time frame or about the region characteristics, because it's about analyzing the elements itself in the end of the dashboard.
Yeah, but finally I wanted to design a new one. So it means that you should take the best from that you learn.
Yeah.
So, but how you know which is performing well? But we just mentioned that you need to know which things are performing good or bad if you want to design the new one, which should perform well.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the fact that each dashboard has different things gives you insights about.
But maybe
I don't know if you understand.
Yeah, I understand, sure. But maybe think about it. What is the main purpose of the dashboard? What do you want to tell about the dashboard? Because you need to before you just make it, and then maybe choose the same dashboard will portray the same information. Because maybe you just want to show how many cases in each state are, or it can be different things. But if you want to select the different one, but it is performing portray the same thing, and then that's them, and then find the new one, which will be yours, which will be putting all together. Because if you have, and there are also many, and also there's problem with the limitation of the software. If you use the Tableau, if you use the Power BI, there are a lot of Python dashboards, and there is limitation on that side. So even if you want to make it perfect, it's not possible because the software is not allowed you to do it. So it means that sometimes it's the problem not about the visualization, but about the software side. So it's you need to consider that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm planning to learn
a
bit more on that. That's why I chose this topic as well. But I will take it into account.
I see that there will be very nice like recommendation which software is good for which, let's say target group or functionality, or make some summarize or recommendations at the end.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
I have a question. My question is related to the previous one about value. As I understand from your presentation, you already choose 4 dashboards, right?
Yes.
So, in like which criteria was the choosing, like because of their popularity or like which I just want to share my experience that I just found out that my research related to the traffic, to the visualization of the air traffic, and some dashboards really nice and much better than like some popular one. And sometimes like why you choose? I will make it simple. My question is why you choose like just these four ones? Maybe there is some existing more like better or something like that.
Yeah, first of all, as I said before, they have to have different elements, so they'll have different functionalities and visualization elements. Second of all,
you have some list of criteria.
yeah, a little bit. Second of all, a lot of dashboards are not single screen. Like popular, non-popular, a lot of dashboards are not single screen, and for me it was a very important criteria that they are single screen and that the user cannot be focused out of the main panel, he cannot scroll down. So this was one of the most important things apart from the distinguishing. And that actually narrowed it down a lot because a lot of dashboards don't have this criteria. So then I ended up with not a lot of dashboards to choose actually. And then I basically, yeah, obviously John Hopkins is super popular. That doesn't mean it's the nicest one or the most functional one, we will see. But then I basically focused on having different elements. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So, David, please come.
Good morning. My name is Tadek and I would like to present to you the some results of my master thesis entitled Methods for Creating Engagement Design. The supervisor of this thesis is the Dr. Untitled. The main theoretical goal of this thesis was to analyze possibilities of creating vintage maps, including the vintage design definition and the main practical goal. Is to create manuals for map design in specific names of styles. In this figure, you can see the procedure of forward. Literature research was compiled based on assignment, and then with the help of several experts on historical cartography, the vintage design, and its various forms were defined. Subsequently, in analysis of cartographic visualization methods in old maps was carried out. With this, the process of developing procedures for creating types, different types of maps. Of maps.
You can go to the next slide.
One output is series of simple maps with the manuals how to create the map in such time. Defining the vintage design was quite problematic, as there is no generally accepted formal definition. The term vintage itself comes from French and mainly used in art and fashion. With the most often reversed term to original objects, there are more than 50 years old, but even this term has no precise definition. Therefore, I asked several experts on historical photography to help me. However, there is no consensus either. For example, Dr. Novotná would include this reprints of all maps and facsimiles among vintage maps. Dr. Green, on the other hand, considers vintage maps to be hand-drawn view maps. Finally, for the purposes of this thesis, with the largest help of Professor Samotanova, the vintage map design was defined as it's presented on this slide. Here you can see the analysis of map symbols in selected old maps. Point line and area symbols on maps from 16th to 19th century were examined. Here you can see the background data sources and software use. And now on this slide you can see the design of homepage of the website. The users will be given basic information about vintage maps as to they will be able to choose the type of map they want to create based on the time period. After this, they will redirect it on the next post time, where they will be able to choose a range of territory. And after this is made, they will have a page with a specific map, such as 16th century regional vintage map, where they will receive with data set of symbols, sentiment, and inspection to create the map. Here you can see an example of a regional map, regional vintage map, where the graphic elements typical on 16th century. And here you can see the example of manual how to create this map. The main result of this thesis is a set of manuals for creating maps in specific image styles. This includes map symbology set, sample maps, and written manuals. And that's all from me. Thank you for attention.
Okay, thank you for the presentation and some comments to image style or recommendations.
I would like to ask, I like it a lot, but it seems for me that you are already done. What is your next plan, or how much work is in front of you? Yeah.
Next one will be make it all maps by for all time period and for different range.
Okay.
I have my recommendation because I really like it. It's nice. So, but I think that's also possible to have some like styles prepared for the users. So it means that you can make a layer or whatever, or maybe to make some automatic workflow how to make the symbols or how to design it in the ArcGIS. So it needs to be not only manual, but maybe you can a little bit automatize the whole process. So it means that if you just upload data and then you can put some script which can use the tools which are in the library of the ArcGIS, and you can really play with that even with the model builder. So it means maybe it will be possible to help them, like a little bit, not only make a manual how to make it, but maybe make a tool to not for all for each area, but maybe for one just to test it if this is possible. Because there are a lot of also the videos on the S3 blog when they really doing the vintage style, so there's also way to be inspired.
Okay.
I also think it would be nice to have like styles for the period, to have a style for stories for 18th century, for example. So that if you have a polygonal layer, you just import the style and you have the visualization. It would be a nice result for the users.
Okay, so it's over, and yeah, we'll be presenting some tactile maps.
So, good afternoon, almost. I would like to present you the progress of my master thesis, which is called The Guide to Selected Monuments of the Czechia for People with Visual Impairment. And my thesis supervisor is Dr. Alana. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to send you these test prints that I made so you can take a look at what I'll be talking about if you're interested. The main goal of the thesis is to design and create a guide for selected monuments of the Czech Republic, with the target group being the assistants of the visually impaired, which would be their family members, friends, teachers, and so on. And the guide should present the monuments in various geospatial contexts, such as its location in Czech Republic, in a town, if the monument is located on a hill or in a forest, and so on. And in the picture, you can see how the front page of the guide might look like. I've already finished most of the research part, and I've designed a structure, content, and graphic design of the guide. And at the moment, I'm working on creation of the guide itself. And I'm also planning to do some user testing, which will be in the form of a trip to the actual monuments with students of basic and high school from Prague, I think. This will be organized in cooperation with
the Institute of Special Education Studies by the Faculty of Education. And after that, I will do some final adjustments. So how such a tactile map is made? First, I need to obtain the data from OpenStreetMap via the QGIS plugin QuickOSM. Then after some editing, I can upload the data to Adobe Illustrator, where I can change the symbology, I can add legend, scale, and so on. And after the map is finished, I can upload it to Adobe InDesign to put it in context of the page together with all the other maps and etc. And after some printing preparations, the map can be printed. And it needs to be printed on a special microcapsule paper, which has the special feature that all the bars that are printed black, after being heated, they rise above the surface of the paper, and they become detectable by touching, so they can be used by visually impaired people. And for this, I use this special printer, which is not really a printer, it's more like a furnace because it heats the paper. It's called a diffuser, and we have it in our 3D lab. So the final version of the guide will contain 16 monuments that you can see in the picture, and I have already finished almost 3 of them, which you will see later on. The first one is Frosty Castle. You can see that each monument will be divided into 2 parts. The first one, the upper one, is for the assistants with some information about history, architecture, together with some pictures with description, etc. And the second part, the black and white one, will be for the visually impaired themselves, which will be in the form of these tactile maps or graphics. The second one is Opava from Cathedral, and the third one is Castle. I would like for every monument to have at least 3 levels of scale. The first for the whole Czech Republic and some surroundings, and then let's say like a flag of the monument. Price the result. The main result will be a guide either for all the monuments as well as for the individual monuments, which will be then distributed to the monuments, and it will be available to borrow it, so the users can borrow it and use it. And I will also create something like a printing instructions for the users, so they know how to set up the printing, which paper to use, and so on. And of course, I will also create a website and a poster for the thesis. And here you can see just the visualization of how the guide might look like after it's been printed. This is the front page. This is a chapter about proof of castle and about Geovisualization in Opava. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention. I will be glad to answer your questions. And if you're interested, you can follow the link, the upper one, where I will try to update the guide whenever there is some progress.
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
The last slide, is it a mock-up or is it already done?
Is it a mock-up? It's not a Photoshop, yeah.
But it looks nice.
It's quite easy to use. You just upload the image.
Okay. Actually, one thing, maybe one remark, we spoke about it, but I think that I will definitely divide the guide to the 2 things. One thing for the guider and one thing for the because it will be very hard to read it and to show it. So I think that switch up. I think or maybe to make this list some like detachable or whatever. So somehow maybe I don't know. Yeah, because the thing is that if you're standing, you need some like a board to have it the map on it because you need to touch it. So if you're sitting on the table is fine, but like this I think will be not working. Or maybe after some like rounds, the audience will know how to present. And also maybe it would be nice to have something like maybe points on that to have that under point we are standing here to show it to the person, and then you can see. Of course you can't see, but it will be very nice to have it like a tour, because for them it will be very hard to know where they are now, because if they be working in the smart systems are of course but I really like So, and do you think also to maybe make it like the audio version of it? Because I think it would be very nice also for them to have this at home and maybe to listen. So
I haven't thought of that, but it's interesting idea. If I have time,
yeah, it's an idea. I think if at some point you can just do text to speech, and you can just put that information, and then before they go, they will know something about, and then they will be just listening to the guide. But I think we can learn it. But you can spread it because it will be easy if you put it online, and they have to. The user is at every depot center, so they can make the maps, and they can, if you provide them with this audio or even the text. So I think it helps. Okay.
I have a very quick question. I was not here, so maybe you said it. The final number of the monument will be 16. Okay, and how you decide which will be included?
It's a part of the project. I didn't decide anything. Just I think the students themselves chose which were interesting for them and which they wanted to improve.
Okay, so if it is not possible to add some more.
I'm not sure.
Maybe from the Graler and region, there is no.
I'm not sure. I mean, actually, I might ask.
If I can comment to that, we should have one like a UNESCO monument in each country. So it means that we have a very big discussion about that, which one we choose. So it's like a compromise of that.
Almost Iraq, even Catholics are not UNESCO monument.
I know, but I will tell you more about it. Okay, thank you. So,
Hi everyone, I'm Ella. I'm a CDE student from Ireland, and my master's thesis is on the analysis and geovisualization of biodiversity monitoring data. The kind of concept of my project is to analyze available biodiversity data of wild species in Ireland and the surrounding landscape and habitat characteristics. And this is with the aim of creating an educational geoportal for the public. So the study area I'm using is Glenveigh National Park. It's one of 6 national parks in Ireland, and I chose it because it's got a really good habitat diversity as well as some of Ireland's most famous flora and fauna. So my target group is school students mainly. Glenveigh National Park does have an education centre, and also for the general public visiting the park. And my key focus is producing high quality geovisualization, and that's to show how various species interact with their landscape. Yeah, so some of my project goals is to introduce the users of the visitors of the park to the biodiversity of flora and fauna in Ireland, and provide a more detailed study of the different geo aspects that they interact with in the wild, so different habitat characteristics. And the goal is to provide an interactive and informative platform to educate the public on these different species habitat relationships. So what I love about nature and the environment is every individual animal, it's also interconnected, the way they interact with their habitats and their surroundings. It's all really important. So that's really what I want to push and teach the public about. And so the other goal is to create these accurate and printable static maps and different worksheets and activities to actually encourage people to go to the national park as well. So I don't only want to bring nature to the people, I want to bring people to the nature as well, and encourage people to go visit the park. And that's kind of the main concept, is encouraging people to engage more with nature, get people outside and really teach them more about the local habitats and fauna that we have in Ireland. And another goal is to develop a case study which can be easily repeated. So, like I said, Glenveigh is one of 6 national parks in Ireland. They're all run by the Irish government, and I'd like to see maybe if this was successful to potentially roll this out to all national parks in Ireland. Kind of going one way. So currently, my data, it's all open source. I've been able to get all of my biodiversity observations off GBIF. I'm sure most of you have probably heard of it. It's a really good place to get biodiversity observations. And so I decided to select just 20 species to have more of a focus on each of those individual species. And the land cover data, I'm going to do a quick habitat analysis with using just the land cover data from Copernicus. We do a Copernicus Masters, so it's a good thing to incorporate. So these are the species I will be doing specific profiles for my project. I decided to choose just a variety of species for different orders, groups, classifications that really represent all different habitats and fauna across Ireland. So we have the Irish hare, which is quite synonymous with us. It's our national animal, actually. And the red deer is also very famous in Ireland. And I decided to include the birch tree as well because Glenveigh National Park, it gets its name from the Gaelic word Glanbacha, which means Valley of Birches. So I thought that was quite an important one to include in this project. So kind of where I'm at the minute is I was able to collect all of my observation data. I think originally at 12,000 records of species observations within the national park, which I narrowed down to the 20 species, which is about 400 observations in the area. And I was able to just download the boundary data. This is more for me, this map is just for me to get a rough idea of where the spread is across the park of various flora and fauna. And my kind of stage that I'm at now is doing a habitat analysis using the land cover data, just to try identify more habitat characteristics for the specific areas where each animal is found. So this is kind of where I'm at for the future then. Further research, I need to do a bit more research into the methods and technologies to get everything online, to create this geoportal and then put this onto a big interactive website. Essentially, that's what I'm looking more into at the moment. Habitat modeling is the next step, potentially using R, or even before I've used GeoPlanner as well, to do a habitat suitability analysis for each individual species, to try to identify all the different characteristics that make them live in the area that they live in. And then I'm going to focus on the map layouts and design. Obviously, geovisualization is the biggest focus for me in this project. Designing, creating symbologies, the map layout, a really interactive map that would be highly visual and get people excited and really help people understand the different species that I'm studying and how they relate with the landscape. Also then the worksheets and activities. The thing is, I think could be kind of a complex issue is getting an interactive map that is good for all visitors of all levels of knowledge, and then having things that are also good for kids and children. So I think that might be a bit of a challenge, just trying to find a balance there if it's something that's going to be fun and understandable for everyone. One thing I would really like to get a bit of feedback on today is the actual website building and the publishing. If anyone has any advice on different platforms to use, that would be really great for me. It's something I'm looking into at the moment. So if you have any feedback of something for that, that would be great. Yeah, so I've actually contacted Glenveigh National Park Visitor Centre this week. They are quite interested in, once this is up and running, using it for some of the school groups that come to visit the park and also making it available to their visitors. That'll be a really great testing point for me. I'd be really excited of them using that. And yeah, the end product would be a fully functional, interactive website, easy to use for all ages, all visitors. Yeah, my final concept I just want to bring that back is bringing people back to nature again. Really encouraging people to come visit the great area that is Glenveigh National Park and get people excited about our local flora and fauna. That is it.
Okay, great, thank you. So questions, please.
May I ask, so the final product will be, let's say, the page with some information about these 20 species?
Yeah, so the final project, I mean, in my mind, is like an interactive website. So, but an interactive map of the whole national park where you're able to go to different habitat areas and see, okay, which of these species that I'm studying are within here. And myself and Radek also spoke about doing a worldwide species profile for each of the individual species and their worldwide distribution, conservation status, what to look out for in the habitat if you're looking for that specific species. And then have available different, maybe some interactive worksheets, quizzes that you could do online, and then also printable activities. So static maps you could print out and take to the park, or things that you could give to the kids while they're walking around.
Because I was thinking if you want to bring people back to the nature, the website it does not help. So if one of the results may be like static map that will be placed directly in the park, so the visitors can make some activities with this static.
Yeah, so I think for me it's kind of a balance. It's bringing people back to nature and also bringing nature to people. I mean, I think we live in such urban environments these days, it's really hard to encourage people to get out and about and maybe bring interactive and online presence first, and hopefully that might actually encourage them then to go out and enjoy that as well.
Yeah. And the idea also what Sandra mentioned with the going online website, because I think it would be very nice to have mostly like application for tablet or for mobile, because it can be somehow connected. People will go there because and there also can be some like a gamification for the children, like maybe augmented reality or whatever, because or you can even make some 360 videos in the application to add some sounds of the species and maybe try to make it more interactive, but try to connect it somehow with the place, so to motivate the people to go there, because if you do everything on the website, they will be not motivated to go there, so there should be something which will be there, so hidden. So
this is actually something I've had like a plan for maybe future down the line, if this kind of goes well, is to have, you know, like Pokemon Go is such a big app, is something like a similar concept that you could use a mobile application and go there.
Okay. There's also with concerning the land cover, so there's the ESA one, not the Copernicus one, but the ESA one is called, but it's like a new version, so it's it's coming from the Sentinel-2. It's an infinity resolution, so maybe it will be helpful. So for some kind of analysis. You're welcome.
I was sorry, you mentioned that you will contact visitor center, but I recommend contacting earlier than in the end. If you finish your application, discuss about your ideas. Yeah, maybe this month contact them and discuss about your ideas or expectation and control everything. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.